Fucking, you remember Ace Ventura's dude? Oh my god. All right. Anyways, 3, 2. We are live on the Voodoo Monkeys.
Yo,
and
we are live
Taylor,
on the Voodoo Monkeys. I'm just gonna copy what you say.
Big titties.
I have big titties.
He wasn't a moment ago. Now he is.
I wonder what would be the best way to like make some sort of baking thing, like a cake in the shape of a titty.
Time travel it.
Just
titty cakes.
Happy birthday. Whoa. What about this? It's just like cake.
And on this episode, welcome to Voodoo Monkeys Titty Cakes.
Titty cakes. Off to a great start.
Titty cakes.
That's a great idea.
What else? What goes with titty cakes? Need something else. Titty cakes and puss muff.
Chicken. Kung Pao cat.
No, just
chicken fried pussy. I'm kidding. That's pretty bad. That's crude.
Chicken fried pussy.
I should be I should come up with something better. Titty cakes.
Whatever, for the sake of humor. And that was like, okay, so let me get this straight. Kentucky Fried Pussycat.
Kentucky Fried Pussycat. Garfield in a fryer.
Colonel Sanders never went there. See, you got states trying to legalize pet marriage, states trying to legalize bestiality, but no states are like allowing Kentucky Fried Pussycat. And that's the next thing on the list.
Cats are cute, and they can live in people's homes. Kitties are cute.
Live in people.
And they're low maintenance. They're easy to take care of. Most people aren't allergic to them, but more people seem to be becoming allergic to things. That's a weird thing I think I noticed, is that there's a lot more allergies in our generation. Like peanut butter, that was never that much of an allergy a long time ago. Or I guess last generation, 2 generations ago, 3. And all of a sudden we started becoming more allergic to things. Kind of took a weird turn here. Allergic to things. I guess peanut butter is probably just the main one.
Word.
What happened to the peanuts? Did they start rubbing peanuts on the peanuts, and then they made people allergic to peanuts?
Okay, so we got titty cakes, we got penis rubbing genies on nuts. I don't know what this
seems to be very sexual, combinations of things. Maybe we should.
Yeah, so what are you trying to tell me?
I've been having my balls, if I could describe them in a color.
In a color?
I would say, I don't know, ultramarine. No, I'm just kidding.
One of them has a leg.
One of them is growing a leg now. The colors have legs.
There's
bright pink. The color out of space. Okay. Hold on. There's this band I discovered. They're from Japan.
This I gotta hear.
They're like the Japanese Black Sabbath. This is how I like
you make the relation to fucking balls, dicks, and toes coming off legs out of balls into a Japanese band.
The only way. Okay, wait, hold on. Here's how this connects. The only way to destroy all that is with the absolute horror of H.P. Lovecraft, Color Out of Space story, which this pink light comes and starts just absolutely slaughtering things, and people come and they see this pink light and people just die. It's fucked up. And there's this band that sings about it, and they're Japanese, and they dress in monk uniforms. Well, 2 of them do. And they're like the Japanese Black Sabbath. You gotta check them out. They're called Ningen Isu. And it's they have a song called "The Color Out of Space," or it's called "Inach Orimasu." So, do you want to listen to it? I wonder if I can play it for you through my computer. Through a Skype call.
I don't know. You can try.
Maybe.
I'll entertain your idea.
I can share my screen with you, I'm sure.
We've gone through a lot of stages as the Voodoo Monkeys. I've realized that the other day. I'm like, we've gone from podcasting to not podcasting to podcasting to not podcasting to I'm gonna quit the podcast to no more podcasting.
Okay, let's record a podcast. Okay, don't post that.
Podcasting. Yeah, we just did one. It was pretty good, but I'm not allowing that information about my life to be subdued by the public. You got to get my music for that, and I just don't want to scare people. That's something I'm trying not to do in 2020 is scare people. I used to
when
have two modes. It was either where the fuck is the screwdriver or fucking I'm gonna slaughter you. Remember the time I went to go take the tire iron to Rod? No, I can't hear shit. I can see the horror and terror though. So this is more fun for me and visual. You see that guy? So let me imagine.
All you need to do is see the bass player. He looks so freaky.
Let me just tell you what I think they're saying. Oh,
it's about the color out of space. Check it out. Can you read the English?
Holy, this guy looks like the Japanese Breaking Bad.
Like the Japanese Breaking Bad? I wonder if he cooks meth in his basement. In the trailer.
What the fuck?
That's what I've been listening to every so often.
You've been listening to Japanese fucking metal bands lately.
Am I sharing my screen right now?
Yeah, I don't enjoy being in two places at once. That's some freaky shit.
Okay. Now I'm not sharing the screen, right? Okay. Yeah. I've been learning Japanese too a little bit on Duolingo. So I kind of got into some Japanese music. But I actually got into Japanese music more through Iron Bunny, which is this guy who dresses up like a samurai from the future, a cyborg samurai. And he plays with some Japanese people. I think there's a Japanese lady there that's a singer. And then there's this other band that's all female singers. They're singers and musicians. And they're awesome too, Bandmade.
Cool.
Check out because they're really good.
That sounds dope. I've been thinking a lot.
Ginitsu, and I was like, whoa.
I've been thinking about a lot though, about the pretense of how things happen and how everything's just kind of a spirit of it. You know what I mean? Everything in existence. So you make an audio, you don't necessarily know the energies that are combined to make those sounds. You kind of see what I'm saying? So in a way, when you're pulling out frequencies and you're doing stuff like that, you could be holding a demon shrieking, and you might be holding it within a tameness, but it's almost like witchcraft, it's an interesting thing. And this addiction to release music after.
So dealing with the thought of a demon, right? Or maybe it's not a thought, but it's a subconscious thing, or because demons kind of they're not always in your consciousness. They come into your consciousness in kind of a disguise, and when so it's they exist somewhere else. It's something in the subconscious, unconscious mind. So dealing with like, I'm trying to figure out. That's where I'm at with demons. But what you said like kind of like blew my mind a little bit. Even just what you said there, and how you're dealing with them.
Yeah, it's almost like you hold like a demon shriek like out in a song somewhere. You find like certain pitches and they like really like resonate a feeling of a time of that like I can like relate to. And I usually don't know what that is until the song is done. And then I listen to the song and there's always this direct memory. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the song, but just the way the progression worked to like get to that point.
Yeah, maybe that's so. Have you had a song that you wrote where you kind of were writing it in one energy, and then when it was finished, you went back and you listened to it, and it was like, "Is actually this reminds me of something else," and then you like,
Dope Kids.
kind of
Dope Kids
connect
is a
to a
lot
greater
like that
picture.
for me. Because I've done Dope
like
Kids a lot of times, and like, I mean, I remember when I was writing it, and at first, I said to Jordan, I was just like, well, let's just get this done. I don't even want to fucking do the song. I don't even care that much. And he's like, all right. So we like just get it done, force it out. And then like one day I'm listening to it like a week later, and I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. So I pretty much like went back and I was like, okay, it's a good song. So I started mastering it. That's what started the mastering chain with everything.
Did that
And
make
then
it a
like,
little bit more like video game inspired retro theme kind of stuff, or like?
no, the Game Boy days was really a lot of that, and I'll explain that in a second. But like,
Okay.
Dope Kids was really like, I like came up with that synth line in the song, and so like I was playing it and Jordan's like, yo, that's dope. And he like starts adding in that bass and those drums and I'm like, and I just start singing that chorus. Like I just like out of the blue, just like nothing, just like boom, there it is. And I'm like just keep going with it. And I'm like grab my phone and start writing it down. And then I just like wrote one verse, another verse, a third verse, and like yeah, we just cranked it out over 2 sessions though. Like I did the first half of the song, and then I did the last verse the next time, and then I came back and I did it again. And then like recently, in the last like 3 weeks, I've done that song 100 times at least. Like
Really?
a lot of freaking times. I think like 30 some hours of recording just Dope Kids straight. Yeah, so for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, all as I did was record Dope Kids. So now it sounds good. Now it's like what I want it to sound like. Yeah.
Okay.
So I listened to that song today after having a minor break from it, and I was like, yeah. I'm like, this is
I
good.
should go back and listen to it again because it's probably changed since last
you
time I
know what?
listened to it.
Pull it up. Pull it up. Pull it up on SoundCloud right now.
Okay.
Let everybody see my SoundCloud page and stuff there.
Oh, there. I'll have to share the screen first.
Okay. So I absolutely like love this song. This is my favorite song ever. Like I even had a couple friends tell me they're like, this is my favorite song right now. Like not even just like in general, like out of all the music they listen to, that's their favorite song right now. That made me feel good.
So this is Greg's SoundCloud, Real Greg Pelly.
I can't hear nothing though.
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
You're hitting like way better notes.
Yeah, it's like way better.
Yeah, it is way better. The delivery, like you can tell
But the
a lot
whole
more.
album is that good now. The only song that hasn't been redone is Bacardi, and that's because I've been waiting on Karen to do the vocals. So we're waiting on Female Presence to be completed. And then Scott Pilgrim is pretty well done. A few things to finish up on that. And that song is dope. It's good.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear
And
the finished version because
all as
the
I have to
there's 2
say
minutes ago.
with my religious knowledge, hopefully I don't go to hell for some of my music. All right, we can shut down Dope Kids. Let's get back to
Just kind of you're putting it into the greater music sphere, right? Music sphere, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting enough. Like, I don't know, like, people believe what they believe, you know, and they're always gonna believe what they believe. It doesn't really matter who you are. You're always at the end of the day gonna be like, okay, this is what I really think is right, or what I thought was right. So like today I kind of had an enlightening thought, which I was not gained by me. I can't remember where I got it. I think in a video I was watching. But pretty much the idea is like my what's like wrong is for man to determine what's right or wrong, because we're already imperfect. So that was an interesting idea. Yeah, that was an interesting idea to think about, because I was like, okay, because a lot of people don't believe in these things, but if you can break it up into the fact is like just spirits. So I resonate with the spirit of something. So the fact of like I could be dead and you could listen to Dope Kids and you would hear my voice and there'd be this resonance of some sort of memory to be associated with my life with anybody who knew me, and then anybody who didn't, they'd be like, oh, maybe this is just the music. But it would continue to keep going even though I wasn't here. So like that's what I mean by the like feeling of the spirit, you know? It's just like that sound, that thing I did in the keyboard, that's something I've like carved out into time and put it there. Just so like people can hear it, but people could know my life, you know? Like I've spent a lot of my time with people telling me to be quiet about it, or maybe it wasn't an appropriate thing to talk about. And it was interesting to me because I was just like, but this is like life for real. I'm like, you guys pretend life's about this thing when really this is what's actually going on. I'm like, most of you guys like kind of like had somewhat of a society structure, which is all good. But like there's a big portion of people that live in this like realm. You know, I like don't know what it was like for you growing up, but we live in this realm where it's just like maybe there wasn't food in the fridge, or we had to really survive when we were younger. So that was the way it was for some people, you know, and it just goes over skipped, like, oh, make better decisions, do better things. Yeah, okay, some of that might be true, but at what cost? It's always a strike at the morals, because like if you don't agree with something and that's the reason why you're not pursuing something in life, we can't see that as a challenge or like a roadblock. We have to see that as I value this, you know. And I don't think people really understand their own beliefs enough to say, okay, this is something that I'm gonna just hold dear to myself, and this is something I'm gonna let go, you know. And I usually go stick by the basis, like if something is better presented, and I don't mean in an informative information, I mean if something compels me to feel deep down that I need to abide by that thing more than something else I was doing, I allow that usually to be the compass to change me, not so much just science or math. You know, those are great things, but like they can be fudged. They're just language, you know.
It really shows how adaptable humans are when you can decide what you want to like hold as that thing. It could be science or math or anything like that too, you know, or it could be
I'm sure
a spiritual base or.
Like, I'm sure
kind of
there's
thing.
numbers that do
Probably.
at this
I
point
mean,
describe
some things people
spirituality.
would say is probably not of the same kind of sanity to hold as this
So I had a crazy thought about
base.
numbers recently. So imagine numbers. Okay, so the same way I was describing the song is like carved out in time. So if you know the numbers are like binary code, just like a computer, because we can come up with that way of thinking, right? So that everything projects an image of something, right? Now, if you look at the significance of numbers, to think that they are kind of like
And there's a
zeros
bunch of
and ones
numbers,
are actually
big
like
numbers.
people. So like the fact that like consciousness
I
is
think
held by
that
each one
they're
of
more like
those.
equations, like functions, you know?
Yeah,
More like
okay, hold on.
not more than just
Because
one
there's,
number, you know?
but I'm talking
It's a
all the
series of,
picture of
not a
everything. I'm
series, but
talking about the whole matrix here, like the
yeah, it's
entire zeros and ones of everything. So like literally each zero and one holds its own consciousness, right? So if you rather take it out of the matrix setting and put it into each one's a little tiny gear in a clock, one really complex clock, and it spins and it goes and it precisely moves at exact times and never changes. It's always consistent, you know? Like, and fucking, when you look at the overall picture of all of it, you just see the outer part of the clock. But if you want to open the door and look at all the inner workings and see how intricate and how much it really functions, that's also an option. But a lot of us are good with just looking at the clock. A lot of us won't go inside and
just to
see.
tell the time.
Yeah, but like we all function like that. Instead of zeros and ones, or maybe we are zeros and ones, however you want to view it in that way. That's the kind of way that doesn't matter. What I think humans should really start debating is the essence of their life. What do you want to do with the essence that is inside you?
Well, what is the essence inside of a person?
That is a question for the person to answer. But
yeah, so first you
think
have
the
to answer that question.
I think the
Then you
answer is
have to
common
answer
to everybody across the board, right? The essence
how
inside of you would be the fact that you like the breath of life, whatever life is. So like if you understand knowledge is power, power is life, kind of. So that was what was interesting about this history I was watching. They were talking using terms, and they were saying how like these kings would want to like exceed their power by the time they were 20. All they wanted was power because they had arranged marriages. They didn't get to choose from that. Their dads had taught them nothing but war since they were young boys. So by the time they were 20, they were like hardcore killers. And then all of a sudden they would just like want to reign on their kingdom, you know? So there was a sense of power. And when it was broke out like that, I realized humanity really acts out on the power. Like that's how we are. It's just like if we got a good military, if we got a good organization, if we got a good structure, those are all like forms of power, right? And they're all different branches. They're different descents too. Like each one of those powers like holds a different purpose, and they work like the clock
Yeah,
as
like
well.
I was thinking of a few of the different powers. At the beginning, you were saying there's like I can't even remember what you were saying at the beginning, but that some of them are more tied up with how people live their daily lives or whatever. You know, like the same thing that's happening now, like borders closing, or say that the king is raining down on the town or whatever, and it makes it way harder on everybody there. But like that's not even a point that I was trying to make. Hold on a second.
No, yo,
Let's just
but
like
that
let
was
that one
some
spin
good
off.
shit. No,
into
yeah, that was good.
Cosmos,
That was good. That could be some truth. That could be some truth.
Yeah,
Just
well, it's
spit
weird
out
how
by
it's
accident.
like the king is supposed to
Verbal
lead
diarrhea.
and show how things are supposed to be better, right? Be a good leader.
I'm
I don't know.
scared.
With some of them, it is about power, and it is about just like,
I'm scared for
okay, how much do I
humanity
deserve to be
because-
king? Let's go make the people pay for how much.
Well,
you know?
look at how much.
Or
Just look at how much selfishness seems to exist right away. Like, but it's interesting because is it their
Or
fault?
like that,
So
something
like,
like
hold on.
that gets people talking to each other.
Yeah.
It makes people
So
feel
like,
things,
okay,
and it affects their lives.
we get
So it's
people
like,
that are just like hoarding materials and they're running out and they're grabbing all this stuff. But the reason why they're doing that, hold on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say the reason they're doing that is because they've always had a shortage of materials in their life. So they're like, okay, people have a lot of money. Maybe I have money right now, so I'm going to stock up on all these things because if something happens, like, I don't know how we're going to kind of do that. Meanwhile, the other people are doing that. See, the thing is about a crisis like this, if it came down to actual survival, like, people are acting like it's a zombie apocalypse. But if it comes down to survival, our money is not going to hold any bearing. So that's what would test humanity a lot. You would start to
it's gonna
see,
be what you already have. You won't
yeah,
have
you
time
would.
to go get
Well,
anything.
no, we will eventually see a point where
You're probably gonna have to leave what you have.
the supply chain would be low enough and the demand would be high enough that people will start to be violent, or we will see a point where they'll take the other approach. But usually people take both approaches. It never stays just as one solid line, where there's one, there's the other. So we're going to see some violence, but we're also going to see some calmness. And it'll be kind of both those evils while it works itself out. And that's
People are
kind of what
some
the
are gonna lash
balance.
out.
Yeah, and the balance of time has been like that forever, you know? So you can't really go correcting it now. We have to understand that, like, things are going to be different, you know? It's funny. I just wanted to send a video at one point today to all my friends. I go online and I see coronavirus might inspire our RDIF chip, or however you say it. I'm not sure how you say it properly. RFID maybe.
Yeah,
Anyways,
radar frequency, I think.
yeah. So they say coronavirus might inspire this chip, and it was funny because I was talking about it like last week, and I was just saying how like they were gonna introduce this because of this economy crash. And so now I saw a video relatively recent, as of like a day or two ago, talking about this. And I'm like, yeah, this is good shit. So like pretty much I think that some things could like change drastically now because, like I think this is how it's gonna go. Freaking, we're gonna have to like change our currency to like no more printing money, but we'll straight up just like possess digital currency through a microchip, but we'll also possess our ID through that microchip. There'll be less fraud. There'll be, yeah,
Where
hacking
is
will
this?
still
Is it gonna be
always
on a
be around.
card?
No, it's just a little insert that goes into your hand. You can look it up. It's just like a little pill-shaped chip, goes in the corner between your thumb and your index finger.
So like a
Um,
cybernetic implant almost.
they've been
That
running trials for this for a
holds
couple
your
of years,
ID and your financial information.
and your medical records.
Medical records are on there too.
Yeah. And I really truly believe that the ultimate bank, so this is what I predict. Okay.
So
So I think
once a lot of people have one of those, people are gonna be able to just search based
they're gonna
on
make
all
it
those things.
mandatory too. Yeah.
And
You can already buy them. Yeah.
I don't know.
And go get
I wonder if
your,
there'd be some kind of like equalization things happening there.
so tattoo artists can put them in, so can some other piercers or whatever, which is interesting. Um but yeah, you have all that ID on there. You have everything on there. It wouldn't be able to get stolen. So there are some benefits to it. But this is how I predict it to go. I see Bitcoin, right, being the first stock that rises up out of all this shenanigan. And okay, so this is what's going to happen. The world government is going to merge into one government. Okay.
How's that gonna happen?
So that's already happening right now. So
Through what?
the whole world right now through this virus has got this memo. We're gonna stick together. You got China on board with what Trump's doing, but everybody's closing borders, right? So through this virus, everybody's just like freaking on board. They're like, okay, this is going on. But
So
yet this
there's a lot
virus
of the
doesn't
similar
seem,
behavior.
yeah, this virus doesn't seem as bad as what previous viruses did, but by now they've already counteracted that statement accusing that. So this is what I would say is going to happen here. They're going to, first of all, the economy's already crashed, and it's been crashing, and every day it gets worse. So when the States goes broke enough, and every other country on earth, they're going to have to introduce something that's stabilizing. And rather than just the idea of the past where we printed money and we paid a bank to make money, now it's going to become digital currency. And that's where I think Bitcoin's going to come into it, because Bitcoin is completely trackable. So if you can load Bitcoin Financial, and you could get it to every country fast, that's the other part. So all they got to do is now generate money the same way they've always generated money on Wall Street, with a stock idea or arrangement, which will increase its profits digitally, not needing the effect of being printed physically.
That probably makes it an attractive option for, you know, for materials wise. You can be using less things.
Yeah. So this is my prediction, but I predicted the economy
But
to
like at the
crash over
same
the
time,
virus, and
I
I
don't think that's gonna
predicted
happen.
no, but like, have you been reading about it? Like, because I read about this every day, and I've been
I
watching
haven't.
these update
I read
videos.
about it while it was kind of
Okay,
happening
so
for a while. I not
this was
today,
the Alberta
not yesterday.
statement today. This was the Alberta statement today. They said guaranteed, this is a fascinating statement to me, especially with a quarantine, is guaranteed that this will take place for the next 3 months. This will not be something we get rid of in 1 week or 2 weeks. This will take like at least 3 months or more. So they put this time limit on it. And that's interesting, because how can you put a time limit on it? Because you want to go back to SARS. They didn't say, okay, we're going to be done SARS in 2 months. There was none of that. So, like, first thing, like closing borders, that was a weird move. Nobody's seen it in the history since like the Great Depression. Since we opened all our borders have not been closed in the World Trade Organization, right? And the supply chain has never suffered before. So that's been an interesting like trend to happen. And then the next thing is you got frickin' Trump using this as an excuse to get all the stuff back to America that was in China. America's all their productions from China. Now we're going to bring this back to America. Okay, we're going to represent digital currency. We're going to introduce solar options into factories and productions. There's going to become more evolved ways to be efficient with energy. And this is all saying our species like lives that long. Because I'm not so much a believer on that side of the fence. Like, I used to believe in that system a lot. I supported that system for a period of time in my life, but I've come to realize otherwise, that like I maybe take a more religious approach to it, because yeah, I just don't understand how a guy who would have been like 4,000 years old, probably herding some sheep in his field, like just like tripped out and like writes a book about fucking
Tripped out and write a book.
what's currently taking place in our world affairs, and he's like, and this is how it's gonna go, and this is what you guys are gonna do, and this is why you're gonna do it. And it's just like, all right, do I
He
believe you're
looked around.
Satan or divine, and does it really matter at this point which one you are?
You know what he probably knew, or she knew, whoever that person was that wrote the book.
Now, apparently
Would
this
have been
is just
looking around and been like,
Bible,
these
right?
people that are here, people are stupid. I know people are stupid. And then they're like, I know they're gonna survive too. Is the sad thing.
So,
Well,
like, what?
after 100 generations of this kind of stuff is gonna happen. They're like,
What? Yeah.
well,
What
since
people
stupid's
will
gonna
want to
survive.
do is they just want to jump to the fact. They're like, okay, where did the Bible come from? Why did it come from there? Okay, so it came from a collection of people, right? Who documented stuff in time, and these letters were recovered by historians, archaeologists, or whoever found them, right? Then they were translated hundreds of 50 times over and over and over, like
Yeah, like
probably thousands.
originated as letters between
Yeah,
the apostles and
yeah.
like I don't know what else to call them, right?
So they like to really like put emphasis that like the Christian side of it is a cult. I like to really put emphasis on that spirit side of it. So like again, like the song, so that spirit lives through. So they in Christianity they compare Christ to be the peace beacon. He's like the literally the symbol for peace. So when I experience a
That
moment
makes a
in
lot
my
of
day,
sense.
yeah, when I experience a moment in my day where I'm like at peace, I really just think about that story and I think about why I believe that story. Well, the reason why I go with it is because that peace came with what was described as sacrifice, a human sacrifice at that. He says, I will allow myself to be murdered by the evil deeds of the earth in place of those evil deeds. And so this like depicts this picture of love in a way, right? And so you got this picture of love. Who doesn't want to live like that, right? But like what it actually takes to live your life out like that, that would be hard. Because you got to remember, like God's usually a silent one. And even I think Jesus in the story found God to be silent because he's like, in one point, he's like, God, why have you forsaken me? He says that out loud at the moment he's dying. And it's just like, whoa, what? That really like grabs my attention because I'm like, this is a man that just understands how to channel the spirits that he's feeling. And the spirit depicted is this. So, okay, we got ruins of a temple, which were like positive, was destroyed. It happened. And we know that this guy died. And we know that freaking John, you got him predicting these revelations, right? And now, okay, check this out. He says in this revelation, he talks about how in God's city, which I think is Jerusalem, I can't, or Syria or something, it's somewhere in the Middle East. I can't remember the exact city, right? That's off the top of my head. I think it's Jerusalem. And he says in God's city, he's like, you're going to rebuild the temple. And now Jerusalem has put forth plans to start rebuilding a temple. So, and the Nile River is turning red, blood colored last year. That was a prediction. So, like, this is
Yeah, that actually happened.
Yeah. So this is like what I'm finding fascinating.
There's a perfect explanation, right? But it still turned red.
Yeah, it's still turned red. He said all the rivers around the world will start to turn blood colored.
Well, all of them aren't going to, but one did.
No, but a lot did. That wasn't the only one. There was more.
Really? A lot did?
Yeah. There was more. There was one in Alberta that turned that color. Oh, really? I can't remember what the actual count. I think it was maybe 1,800 lakes.
That's a lot. What caused it? I don't remember it being anything that was like.
I think the general consensus was what scientists just stuck to this description that it's the cells and whatever. I don't know what they said exactly. Okay, it makes sense. That's what it is. But hear me out. This is what I'm saying about the spirit. All right, this is what I'm saying. Is like you got this guy saying these lakes and rivers are gonna turn blood red around the world. Okay. And they did. It happened. He also said that we were going to like be at a time when evil would be at its highest point. So like pretty much if you like look around, like we're okay with like transgenders, we're okay with like everybody like get down and dirty. We're okay with like getting drinking and getting fucked up. We're okay with getting drunk on the world and pursuing our careers. We're okay with like all these things that don't really matter. We're okay with being high on ourselves. So the spirit of the devil was supposed to be this whole image of what was the quote? When Lucifer saw himself as beautiful, that was when he was kicked out of heaven. So that because that was taken from the ultimate consciousness. So in my mind, this is how I picture it. I picture God as like this singular entity of energy, which is all of existence, right? And it's got a consciousness the same way we got consciousness over our singular bodies, right? Except that's the consciousness of everything. And our bodies are a seed of thought of that consciousness. So in that seed of thought of consciousness was a little seed that told him that it was something else. And that's where we get this concept from Lucifer. So inside each of ourselves, we each got a seed. You know, it's just like which one of those spirits do you want to rule your life? So one is like the idea of do what thou will. So what am I going to do to worship myself, to allow my environment? So like really like taking in the pleasures of what I build on earth, right? And then there's the other side, and like how do I act out my life in a more biblical manner? Actually, not the way pagan Christians have turned it to be, because that is not what it's about either. You know, like I solely believe because I've seen certain things spiritually. I don't believe because somebody fed me a doctrine and I thought that was the best doctrine.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about how we even got the choice to choose between the two spirits in the first place. You know, like it's so weird how I guess creating the devil was God's first mistake, almost. You know.
That's a crazy quote. Like, do you realize the significance of what you just said?
That's
really say that again.
God's first mistake was creating Satan.
Okay, so like, but let's break it down. Let's like not talk about it, the creation as like he like, okay, now I'm gonna make the devil. The creation was an intent in himself that emerged into that. Because everything he thought came into
maybe
existence.
I don't bet you, but
okay, let's not even
creation happening.
Everything
but before
God
that,
thought
like
came
in
into
order
existence.
for creation in order for existence to come into existence, for God to come into existence, God had to be a certain thing, and it was like infinity, right? But he probably like left that part of him that like somehow gave him the attack to go through. Yeah, to create the universe even in the first place.
So like this is what's
that's what led to the creation of
this
Satan.
This is where I'm at with it.
Then there's the kind of evil stuff that got me there too.
Okay,
but the rest of it, there's a lot of those good, right? But then there's like this little evil thing too.
This is where this is where it got good for me. This is what I realized is like the split of humanity is like, okay, so this plan that like we were going to be deceived, it had to be part of the plan because this was the only way we like God could really like reconcile himself in the story from like away from Satan, right? So if he creates this place where it's just like it's going to be eternal damnation, right? So he just has to create like imagine a planet in all the universe. He's going to create one planet and it's got to be all fire and it's got to be this hellish idea. But he's got his other creation, but his other creation's a tool. He's like, okay, this is how this is going to go. I'm going to teach these people how to follow so that they are unharmed and I'll take care of them. and then I can zero in on this. So when the time comes, I can take all these people back with me, right? They'll be good, and then this evil thing can just fucking burn like that. But that was not how it ended up, because man had freedom of choice, which was something that was given right from the start. We always had a choice. We always had a choice to eat the fruit or don't eat the fruit, to sin or don't sin. The temptation always was there.
I
But
think that
the
wasn't
temptation,
part of the choices that we were making. We probably saw the fruit. We probably did things all around it, and all these other things plowed the field. Like it was the thing in man was to
okay, so
hunt,
we're not
right, and
talking
to work the land.
we're not talking
So
literal fruit. We're
I'm
talking
thinking literally,
yeah,
literally a
we're not
tree,
talking
right?
literal fruit. We're talking about the tree of knowledge. Okay, so let's just imagine
So
a
I guess
tree,
this
but
is more like
imagine
the
sheer knowledge.
bush, like they,
This is like
you
your
know, like a
brain.
psychedelic
This is like your
knowledge,
brain. Yeah,
locked
so
away
when you
knowledge that's supposed to be locked away until you die. But
yeah,
then you
okay, so check the well, I don't know about
discover
that.
this
I
bush,
don't
and
know
you're
if it's
like,
supposed to be locked away till you
oh,
die.
lightning.
Okay,
What
but
smells like a
I'm
trip.
I'm imagining the knowledge to
Holy
be
shit,
like
God.
this tree of knowledge is the reason it's called the tree is one thought leads to another thought. Okay. And thoughts are power. So when I just like, for example, when I say something which I know is right or which I think is correct or sounds smart, it pleases me. I have a sense of like, yeah, that's right.
It's something
You
good,
know
yeah.
what I mean? So like that feeling, okay, that feeling is essentially a power. That's like me drawing from the energies of something I didn't create and feeling from it. And so this is what's interesting about music is that's what music is like I'm going to create something and you're going to feel a certain way. And I'm going to do it probably mostly unconsciously. I might write the song, I might make the beat, I might do all those things that go into making the song. But you don't know until you hear it back in its full pretense after you've probably had some time away from it, and then you can see like certain things were said or certain feelings were implied. And you're like, okay, well, that wasn't what I wanted to give off. Or maybe it was. But there's a sense of being pleased with it. And then that's where I find it's dangerous, kind of, you know? Like, I really, truly, firmly believe there's a reason the arts are called the arts.
Yeah. There's
So,
definitely a
like,
motivation to do it in the first place. I mean, how many artists made things that nobody wanted before they came up with the masterpiece? Or even something that made them money or that they could give as a gift that somebody would hang
okay, so like that
in their
feeds
room,
the
or
ego, right?
something.
Like, so when you
Well,
want to
that's where
create
the pleasure
something
of
nobody,
creating something comes from. It's like,
yeah,
I did
is your
this. Look at
ego.
this. This is me. You know,
And so, like,
it is
apparently that's
it
the
is
spirit
ego,
of
right?
Lucifer.
And then you show somebody and you put it, you make yourself vulnerable, and you're like, don't hurt my ego. You like this, right? Or please tell me what the fuck is
But like, look at how
legitness.
far we took.
Maybe I need a
Look how
reality
far we
check if
took
people are
it,
lying
dude.
to me. You never
Dude,
know.
look how far we took it. Like, people play a live show. So, like, okay, I'm a musician. Like, I'm totally not sure what all my stances are yet. I'm still sorting it out day by day like anybody else. Right? So, but like I'm thinking about a live show and what the premise of a live show is, right? So I'm gonna use the energy of everybody in a room to magnify my performance. Okay, so remember when let's go back to the point where I was talking about like we're like equalizing demons in our music. Okay, so like it's like you find this demon, you find this point in your life that's not very good, and you just like find these high frequencies and you just drop it out and you fuck with it, you get it sounding good. You're taking something that was shit and now we're gonna convert it to good. Sounds great so far. Okay. But now you got this group of people that are all pushing their energy towards you, and you're taking in that energy and giving off the best performance you can. Meanwhile, the actions of that crowd is usually drinking, drugs, sex-driven, and it does not matter the lyrics usually. You could put fucking something that's not that at all up. You could be talking about suicide. Okay? For fuck's sakes. And if it's got a good sound to it, people will accept it. And that's just like a pyramid scheme. So it's just like pretty much saying, it's like, okay, so because I created this like audio, I'm better than the rest of the world. I think about the concept of being an artist, period. Like even like obtaining, you know, a top 40 status or a top 10 status or even being a top artist in the world. Like when you think about all the people that idolize you, is that any different than idolizing an idol in religions? You know, it's not really any different. The only thing that's interesting though is there's an exchange of power among the artists.
I don't know, man. If there's people that idolize you, you gotta see yourself as a role model to them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's kind of a responsibility there, especially if there's people that are, you know, young people, children that are younger people that are formulating who they are and trying to make better choices and stuff. Even I'm trying to make better choices, and there's role models in my life.
See, thus is the longest question in history. So once you get to that point to realize you got to be a role model, it's like, what kind of role model do I want to be? Because you're going to be on a side. Whatever you model yourself after is going to be what you inspire people to be modeled after. And to understand that is very important. So it's good to understand like that there's lots of options. I really think a person does need to choose. But like when it comes down to certain things in life, I usually will bottom line it and say like, okay, this is like, don't go here. You know, like there's certain things you just don't go. Society's okay with the don't murder. Well, most people in society are okay with that. But there's a lot of it that still fucking happens. And we're okay with it if it's like not on our downtown streets, like in downtown Edmonton. As long as it's not downtown Edmonton, it's okay. If it's the country in another country shooting somebody else in their downtown streets. See that the truth and the half-truth that seems to exist with that. And so like people want to receive that. I think that there's
a shit ton of half-truths out there.
And people,
that's what like makes people have mental health problems sometimes. I think I get worried about half-truths, but I don't want to fucking worry about shit like that.
Worry?
Whatever. I'm just gonna worry about the things I really gotta worry about. You know.
Talking about what are you worried about?
I don't know.
Okay, but I actually want an honest answer.
What's going to be the next Marvel movie?
What is the worry? What inside of it strikes our soul so strong when we talk about these things that can make us worry? What could that possibly be?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing.
A combination of things, I think.
Yeah,
and a lot of what if.
To me, yeah, you can take the lot of what if out of the question for me. To me, that's God saying, you fucking idiot, wake up so I don't have to kill you.
Like, you should be able to figure this out. But
yeah,
that's like, the problem is that you're creating the idea that there's something wrong, but really, there's things that are right there, and you need to see the path, not the obstacle.
But when the moment of death comes, that doesn't matter. A man can think of how he will of himself, no matter what. And people can think of how he will. But over time, eventually he's forgot. Even if he's like, leave something behind, nobody will understand the essence or spirit other than that one thing that remains. And so, like I said, you take the circumstance of, let's say, an asteroid crashes into the planet and blows us all up, which, I mean, is an actual scientific theoretical possibility right now, because there's one been heading for Earth, right? So if this
sometimes we
happens,
miss asteroids too. We don't see them heading towards Earth.
but this one
It's like, oh,
doesn't.
we almost got hit. Good,
Yeah.
good thing we
So
didn't.
if we want to think about that moment in time that could be potentially coming, I would
Yeah,
say things
could be.
look like they're. It really looks like it's promoting the end times. It looks like the Bible might be correct. I have been through every
The
possible
Bible
fucking belief.
promoting the end times.
Yeah, I've been through every
The end is
possible
not.
belief
Grab your
in the
Bible
last
today.
like few years. Taylor's watched me travel through many, many different beliefs and like past, and like I'm
Yeah.
kind of like no, I don't even care about the grab your Bible. I don't care about the like fucking wake up and you find time to do your disciplines and stuff. This is what I think people need to do. I think people just need to like realize what it is they're doing wrong, come to terms with that the way you're instructed, give up your foolishness so that we can live forever in a perfect society for reals. But then there's this whole fucking idea that that's not a real thing, but yet people want to create that. That I can never get behind. I do not know how people are that stupid. You didn't create life. Life is saying one thing, and then you guys are going to be like, no thanks, we're going to do it. Like, what? What happened there, eh?
I don't know. I think that there's just a
This
contextual
weird.
difference. Like,
Well,
what's the
we have
relativity between two persons' context?
Well, I think it's we love ourselves enough that we want to survive. And the
Well,
fact
yeah,
that we
I
want
think
to
that's true.
survive gets in the way of that. You know? So like we're like, okay, I want to still pursue my business and build my family and live in the nice house and drive my car. Then I want to die and then I want to go to this mystical, lovely place. Ultimately, I don't care what you believe, that's what everybody wants.
I don't think you should expect to go to a mystical, lovely place, though.
No, yeah, but see, that's the approach right there. Okay, that might not be realistic, so we're not gonna want to expect that. No, the ultimate thing is like that's what to expect, but here's the instructions to how you get there. You can't just jump aboard and go to this mystical place. The thing is you get two options, two paths like you've always chose between. And like at the final point of death, that really shows a man what they're made of. What do you really stand for? Because if I put a gun to your head and I say you can say anything or do anything you want right now, what you do in that next moment would define your whole life. Even if you lived, even if you were to grab a gun and kill your dictator first. You see what I'm saying?
Ultimately, you have to balance the equation that you're in. I mean, if you end up dying and you end up in this great thing that's balanced perfectly, but you enter it. It's balanced perfectly before you enter it, but then you enter into it, and it's on you to keep the balance where it is. So you have to keep kind of shifting to keep the balance. And
do you like
depending
wisdom?
on how it happens, who knows what? I don't know. There's weird stuff. I like wisdom. I think so.
Okay.
I'm pretty
No,
sure
but do you like
wisdom is
it? Do you
great.
enjoy it?
Yeah,
I
I do.
enjoy it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like
Right?
wisdom.
Okay.
Oh yes,
So
yes, I do.
wisdom is
Absolutely.
wisdom is an unseen thing. You
Okay.
don't see it. You obtain it. So
Well, how could you
so
see it though?
we can use
What does it look like?
we can use a language to say we obtained wisdom in a scenario. So here's some wisdom I have for you. When I was 3, I chopped my heel with a lawnmower blade. I got off the wrong side of the lawnmower. Dad said, don't get off that side of the lawnmower. I got off that side of the ride-on. I slipped by the garage. It cuts my heel. Boom. Going to the hospital. Okay, so let me explain the wisdom side of that. The wisdom side of it is I learned don't get off that fucking side of the lawnmower. Here's one more thing I learned. When Dad says something, listen. make sure you get it. So right away, off the hop, that kind of like sets the tone.
Just
I
to
was
be
pretty
safe.
young. I was pretty young, right?
Oh, you made the distinction. This is the wisdom. This is the learning. This is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. So like I get off this lawnmower blade and I pull myself off by the house and I wrap my shirt around my foot. And then Dad was in the house and I started yelling for Dad. I was only 3. There wasn't time to cry about it. It just like natural instinct was take your shirt off, wrap it around your foot, pull yourself up against the house and yell for Dad. So that's what I did. Okay. So you have this distinction. And first thought immediately when I'm laying there and waiting for him to come because they can hear him coming is like, should have just got off on the other side of the lawnmower. So you know how a kid is, right? A kid's like very energetic, that doesn't really listen, kind of crash around. You have to repetitively teach him and teach him and teach him and teach him and teach him. No, there was one time I was told and I learned it like that because that happened, you know? So like that happens, that kicks my memory into high gear a bit. That gets me like thinking about like survival a bit, right? Because I was like this far from my Achilles tendon, and I'm like bleeding out pretty bad. Like I was losing a lot of fucking blood. You know, I'm glad I still have my foot.
Surprised you could yell for help and you weren't like freaking out or passing out. Some people would pass out if they got injured like that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know, like at 3, man, at 3, like I was just like not a puss.
What were you doing riding the lawnmower at 3? What kind of lawnmower was that?
Well, it was a ride-on lawnmower. I think it was
like a normal size,
at that time.
like a full size.
Yeah, full out. Like I was cutting the lawn.
3 years old. I was at least double digits. I was far into my double digits. I must have been a teenager before I was on a
I didn't have a normal job.
By yourself. The more you tell me about it, the more I know about that. I know that's true.
Yeah. Well, like Dad actually was on there with me at first. I always would ride in the back with him, right? He would let me drive it. I knew how to cut the grass, so I did because I used the push mower at that age and I'd cut grass. And so like I freaking just was like driving that one. And we have big open field, like huge open area. So it's like even if I fucked it up, it was no big deal. You know, it's like it just moving along, you know, a slow ride on us. It's not very quick. You know, unless you got a souped up one with some rabbit speed shit. They're a little faster nowadays.
Hope you like what I did with your lawnmower.
Yeah.
How old was it? Was it pretty old one or what?
Well, that would have been 93 or 94. That was 94.
A 94 one.
And that thing was probably 20 years old at that point, or 10 years old. I don't know.
So 74.
So like it was old, 84 probably, maybe 80s. Even 89. But it was an old fucking, you know, piece of equipment. And yeah, so I was just cutting along the strip, and then I parked beside the garage or the driveway. And Dad said, if you park it and you come in, right? Because he had just ran in for a drink and to talk to Mom quick. He's like, make sure that you don't get off that side. And I remember telling him, yes, okay. Like I remember saying it. And then I go to get off the lawnmower, and all of a sudden, I like feel this, like it almost felt like something just grabbed you. I was like, just like felt like just a hand grabbing your ankle almost. And then I like walk forward, and I look down, and I just noticed that like blood just pouring out of my shoe. And so I like took my shoe off, and I wrapped my heel up with my shirt, and I called for Dad. I didn't look at it until later. Like later when I looked at it, that's when like I kind of like got emotional a bit with it. But I was already on the way into the hospital at that point. My parents had seen it. They put me in the backseat of the car. I was laying down. I was freaking, I think my uncle was with us. I think my Uncle Arnold was out there. Because I remember him being there. So it was like the 4 of them, my parents and my Uncle Arnold. Oh, so I guess just the 3 of them. and then like 6 nurses to hold me down because I'm screaming bloody murder on this table. And then like I got skin grafting on my heel, and then like yeah. And then like a year later, I like fell out of the back of Uncle Arnold's truck and fucking got my legs ran over. I just got up and kept doing what I was doing. I was fine.
Well, that was uncomfortable.
Yeah, literally.
Fucking pants are dirty now.
I think that might have been a thought.
Probably your shirt. Probably thought about your shirt getting dirty. Pants you get
No, I
dirty.
didn't think about that. No, I think the thought was more like, okay, did a vehicle just drive over my legs?
Yeah. Well, you probably thought you were gonna have broken legs, and you're like, no, they're fine.
Yeah, no, like literally, yeah. That's
God.
why I was just like, that wasn't so bad. Hey, do that again. I want to see if that hurts again. You know, I'm only a kid, so
again.
I'm like,
you're probably like, oh yeah, do that again. I think it could be a stunt, man. Get a video of it. Send it to Hollywood. Send it to Jackie Chan.
All right. For all you hearing impaired motherfuckers, apparently, like, I'm a crazy dude. Like, just enjoy getting my legs ran over. I'm like, oh, this isn't as bad as the lawnmower last year.
You're just like when you get older, you're having trouble to get off. So you're like, I need something to turn me on. Quick, run over my legs.
Run over my legs.
Okay, now get out and suck my dick. That's fucking ridiculous. No, you have to find a really good woman to do that.
Oh my god, that's some good shit.
Wait, good? Maybe not good. Good's probably the wrong word. Pretty funny though.
Oh yeah, and like, dude, like a few months later, I burned my hand on a burning barrel while we were plucking chickens. Both my hands, like 3rd-degree burns. Like, so you think the thing's been running for 8 hours? It's a tin barrel, just been burning with fire, and I plant my hands on the side of it, like they were blistering. I had full blister films over my whole hand. I had no fingerprints. Yeah, they were bad. It was bad enough that the doctor at that time, I'm not sure why they did this, but the doctor told my parents to put my hands in peroxide and hot water. And so I did, and then they blistered instantly, and then they popped the blister with a needle, and then all the water ran out, and it like made it a lot more comfortable. But like that burn was so extensive, like you don't feel it like a regular burn. It's not like where you feel it deep in your bones kind of thing. It's like feels like your hand's still in the fucking fire. Like,
holy shit.
You're like you just wanted to stop.
Like a panic-inducing amount of, I'm not sure, like you don't even know like how to move.
Check us out. I'm like, I'm fine at this point, and I'm like to my parents, I'm like, frick. I'm like, I burnt my hands. Dad's like, I told you not to touch the fucking burning barrel. So like, I was just like sitting there, and I'm like,
that's what he said. He didn't say, "Are you okay?"
Yeah, that's what he said. So then he fucking takes me in the house, and then like grandma's in there, and then like we phone the doctor, and the doctor's like, okay, you have to get his hands in peroxide. And so when I got my hands in there, that's when I started fucking screaming. I'm like, I'm not sure what you know about that shit. But you shove your hands in fucking goddamn fucking peroxide after you have a burn. Holy fuck. That was worse than the burn. It was worse than that. Like, so I was like screaming my head off at that point. I'm like, I just burned my hands, and you want to burn my hands again, and that makes sense to you. I was pretty upset with this idea. So, yeah, meanwhile, I'm getting my hands all checked out, and I think it was like a week later, I ate a mushroom.
Holy. I wonder if that helped you deal with the pain.
A poisonous one at that. We're not talking your magic average like little guy. This thing is like, it was red, white spots.
Magic mushroom. No, death mushroom. Death
Yeah,
mushroom.
this is literally a death mushroom, and like I bit into it. Grandma's. Well, I'll tell the story. We grabbed 5-gallon pills. It was mushroom picking day. I was excited for that day. I liked that day. I got to run in the fields all day, play with sticks, chase wasp. One time I hit a car with a wasp on it. I got stung like 70 times. Yeah, that was a good time. That was before this too. So this is all by age 5. No, age 4, I guess, because mushroom I was 4.
A lot of pain.
Already. So this sets the tone for my whole life, man. So like, oh, and I crashed a snowmobile into a tree at that age.
What?
Yeah, full speed, 80k an hour. And I'm still here.
You've had a loud life, I would say. There's a lot of loud things happening in a way that's like not necessarily with sound, but like just way more extreme than most anybody ever gets in their entire life. You had like
I know,
10
and
times as much in your first 5 years
when
of life.
People say to me, they're like, "What makes you so special? Like, why do you think you've gone through something the rest of us haven't?" I'm like, where do I fucking begin? And then they start trying to correct like little microisms, and I'm like, not even to the story yet. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
They're used to people making the pissing contest of all this little thing. Oh, I got burned by my sister's curling iron.
Me, I'm just like, I'm just want to talk about what happened. That's all, So like, I ran over to this mushroom, right? My parents had these pails. They were talking to each other, and I'm like trying to talk to Dad, and I'm like, Dad, like I don't remember what I was saying, but I'm just like being an annoying little kid. I'm like, Dad, hey, like pay attention to me, right? He's not. So I'm like, well, Grandma's up there. Let's go see what Grandma's doing. So I run up over to where Grandma's doing. And so the reason I remember this is because like that lawnmower kicked my memory into fucking hyper extent at that age. Like I really remember almost everything after that. Like, so I run up to Grandma and freaking see her. She's kind of slow. She was younger at that time, but she was kind of being a little slow. So I was just like, well, fuck. I'll just keep going. So I ran up a little further, up to where the patch of mushrooms were. And I see all the mushrooms, and so I grab a mushroom. Well, I'm used to eating mushrooms off the field, and usually Grandma or my parents don't stop me. They've said don't eat poisonous ones, but at this stage, nothing's resonating with me. And I bite into it, and it shoots spores into my mouth. Like I could feel the spores, and like it was a different kind of sensation. It isn't like when you like eat a normal mushroom or like even a magic mushroom where you just kind of like eat it. You could feel like little strings almost being shot
like in the air, in like the cavern of your mouth.
Like it feels like they're shooting
like
up
in the
into
back
your
of
mouth.
your throat, like in the roof of your mouth and stuff.
So yeah, but I eat it and it's still juicy. It still tastes good. But you feel that little feeling, and it's almost like Pop Rocks, but it feels like a spider shot his web off inside you or something, And so, like, I'm like, bite into this, and I start chewing it, and Grandma's like, no! And so I spit it out, and I'm like, what? And she's like, that's poisonous. And that was like one of the last things I remember at that point. So that makes me panic, right? And I
started immediately thinking that you're gonna die.
No, dude, that's exactly.
Mushroom.
That's exactly what I thought. Like I thought I was gonna die. No, but dude, it was strong. Like even out of all the times I've done mushrooms, nothing have ever been like that. That's why I've handled so many mushroom trips. So like I turned around and I start running towards my parents, and I can see like I don't know how to describe it. It was like blackening out, but your heart is like my heart was like hard, and it was like boom boom. boom, 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 poof. And I was out. Like, I was like 3 feet from my parents. And I remember looking up at Dad, and like, I can't speak because of that kind of stuff. Shit like discombobulates you. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna die. Like, I'm like, it was fun. I was here for a very short time. Now I'm dead. Like, this is gonna be it. You know? So then I just fucking like, boom, I'm blacked out. And I wake up 5 hours later upstairs, and Dad's on the phone with the doctor at that moment. It was like 5 hours later. And then I remember hearing the doctor be like, he's awake. This is good. And they start nursing me and giving me water and all this fucking shit. And I'm just high as shit at this point. Like, I'm starting to giggle and laugh, right? Because you still got some effects on the poison. It's still same poison, just like I had a lethal dose of it. I've actually like stopped to think like, is that maybe some of the reason to why I've had some of the medical issues I've had is because of that. I wonder, because, you know, is potentially a possibility, but I don't really like think about it too much. It just it's been a thought in passing. So anyways, yeah, so that happens. Yeah, by 4. And then just like many experiences, getting like beat up on the farm life, and my dad threw me off a swather once. My uncle or my grandpa shoved a rifle into my chest and told me to kill a fucking cow when I was pretty young. He was like, kill the fucking thing. And yeah, I was like, not old enough to shoot a gun. Gun goes off. I fell off the top of the corral. Dad was like, he's not old enough to shoot freaking gun. I was like,
I guess they probably just thought you could because you could hold it.
Yeah, I wasn't very big. Like, I was like pretty small. Can't
you
believe.
Could barely hold it.
Well, not barely, but I like hold it. I fucked with guns here and there. Like, they let me shoot one in the field a couple times. Like, it wasn't the first time I had handled a gun. It was just like I was sitting on top of a corral, which is like piping like this wide, and my legs are on there, and Grandpa just shoved it in, and I fell off the back, and the gun went off.
That's a dangerous scenario.
Yeah, and he's an old school German Nazi, so he was like,
he would have to be old school to not really.
He was like
pay
90
to gun
then.
Safety, like that.
He was like 90 then. Yeah. No, I describe it. It was like medieval times when they had swords.
Why do you call him a Nazi?
And they just didn't give a fuck. He was actually a German Nazi. And then he escaped Ukraine to get away from the German army and pretend to be Ukrainian. Took on the name Polipio, which isn't his actual original last name. And then we briefed it down to Pelly.
Really?
When he got to Canada. Yeah. He escaped the Nazi army.
This is your
hid out in the Ukraine, and then came to fucking Canada. So this is my dad's dad, but that's not my biological father, but he is my father. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't have any Ukrainian in me. I am an Italian little fuck. My real dad, his last name was Vinay, and that was my last name before I was adopted by my current dad when I was in like grade 2. 2006, I got my new birth certificate with the last name Pelly.
So you got a whole new birth certificate.
Yeah. It even says issue 2006. So I've had 2 names too in the process of all this, yeah. GAV and GAP.
Yeah. GAV, galvanized. GAP, buy some clothes. Is that how you Determined galvanize? No, it's probably the GAL. Never mind. I think I'm wrong about that.
No, but I wonder like
I'm
how
trying to
you
be clever. I
get
should just
so
quit.
creepy. Yeah, oh yeah. I'm kind of excited for this next album. I'm gonna touch into some like weird shit. Like I said, I'm gonna call it the 13th Friday.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I've been
It should
trying
be
to
good.
get some stuff going. I'm getting in some really beautiful guitar tones and starting to write really good riffs and stuff, but trying to get the full song and all the structure with the interesting parts and interesting structure, catchy parts, and like just keeping the energy through the whole song, and then writing lyrics and lyrical melodies. Lyrical melodies are the hardest for me.
That part
It's hard to write lyrical melodies.
That part comes easy for me because usually I write the story because like I see an image, I get an idea, I start writing a story, and I kind of have this monotone way it sounds, and then I can spice it up later now. That's kind of been the process lately. So then I like just come revisit it, and I'm like, okay, I want this one to sound like that, and I want this one to sound like that, and I like really like work on the art of how I like deliver each one, you know?
Yeah.
So then that
That's perfecting
story
the craft.
becomes,
That's perfecting the
yeah,
performance.
the story becomes more intriguing that way. It's like it's already a good story, it's already a good beat, it already sounds good together, but now you you yourself got to pull it all together with like, it's like listening to a narrator just talk, or listening to a narrator have some expression in his voice, that's the difference really.
Yeah. I always made sure to bring a little more dynamic into what I was doing. Like when I was reading in class and stuff, I always like put a voice into it. But like more recently with guitar, it's been to a point where if I viewed the entire song, like the entire song as a guitar solo, even just chunking away at chords as part of the guitar solo. And sometimes there's melodic parts that are higher, or sometimes it's like just trying to like do something like really chaotic sounding.
Yeah, so that's the same.
But like just like that, it's all just
See, that's the same thing as like
I'm feeling much more like an expert, I guess.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same like idea, like in thoughts, like what you're describing. And then like it's weird because everything kind of just fits into those like few categories, but you can come up with like anything. So like I call that, like, honestly, the way I describe that, like, to me, that's just tapping into the spiritual field. I'm tapping into the field to where everything that was and currently is and will be. And I'm going to pull from it its knowledge and bring that to the forward surface and illustrate that to the public. So, like, and this is why I believe musicians have gone through things in their life, is because it takes pretty fucked up things to make you desire to want to do those things. A lot of people listen to music. A lot of people don't understand what actually goes into music. You go spend 1 week in a studio making something intensely and working on stuff, you'll find out that there's a lot more to it than just a process or just a software or just learning some computer stuff. You start to like get like those weird things that just happen, like for the fact of like when we go back to the beginning, when we first recorded Living Hell, and that voice, that extra voice popped up and we zoomed in on it and it sounded like something whispering its lyrics, which were the lyrics that I was singing. So that was really fucking trippy. And me and Jordan are just looking at each other. We're like, whoa, that's like weird. But then like later, it inspired us.
Magic.
No, but later it inspires us. Yeah, literally, that's what it is, eh? Later it inspires us to make the Night Thoughts song. So like we're going through the editing of it, and I'm like, do you remember that time? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, stack up the audio with some demonic shit. And he was just like, all right. So he does it. And so we get Night Thoughts. And then so like I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna make another one of these. So we make another one. And when I was coming to naming it, I'm like, I first called it Night Terror, and then I take it down because I didn't really like it, but I put it back, and I put it back as Night Sins. And the reason being I put it as that was because it was like, first you have the contemplative. So you have the night thoughts. You have like, this is the contemplative. Now we're going to act on this.
Yeah. It completely changes the action of the song, I guess. And it's cool because you did two
and they're
different
part
freestyles,
one
right?
and two, and they're split up on the album, right? So like, you get the first one, you get like Dope Kids, and you get this Night Thoughts, and you get this kind of like heavenly thing, and then it's just like, boom, then there's this fall again. It's just like Frostbite, selling drugs, and then all of a sudden you get like Night Sins. But like, what I think I'm gonna do is they're gonna go Frostbite, we're gonna go Scott Pilgrim, Night Sins, right? Because the bad event, worst event, then Darkest Point, which will be the Night Sins thing, and then I'll have the Drug Dealer's Testament, then that outro, the Life Simple Diploma outro. But then Blotter Beat just after that, just anyone wants to listen to that trippy little funky beat. It's pretty dope little thing.
Yeah. Jungle beat. It's got a cool like, but like with, it's not quite like that. It's like chuka chuka. It's like a, you got some weird like kung fu pole hitting happening or something. It's always what I envision at the beginning of the jungle of the DK beat. I think
It's
the DK
literally beat. No, do you know how I describe it? It's literally like Metapod using Harden on Game Boy.
Yeah. I didn't use Metapod very much, but
like first the jungle sound is Bulbasaur whipping, vine whipping, Metapod, and then the like other parts like Metapod be like shink.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's so true. Now I gotta put those in. I gotta find them on the internet and go. I'm sure they're out there.
I'm sure it'll be a good meme one day.
Yeah, maybe.
Just Bulbasaur whipping Metapod, and they'll be like making a reference to this song.
No, I was just gonna say this is BDSM.
Blotter Dreams.
Blotter Dreams. Interesting.
No, BDSW, Blotter Dreams and Saurus Whips.
BDS.
Saurus Whips.
Wait. What was the BDSM part that you were saying? Bulbasaur.
Look. Oh, no, I don't remember.
Wait, what was the D?
No, I changed it to a W. Something whips. I worked whips into it.
Shit, I forget. Fuck, whatever. Moving on. Pikachu, though.
Pikachu, though.
You ever played Smash Bros?
Yeah, I like Smash Bros. That's good.
Pikachu? Pikachu's hard to beat on Smash Bros. And then there's a Pichu, which is even faster, but has this like...
I have to say, there's some of those nostalgic things are like just so beautiful because like you think about like all the people from different walks of life. Like I've had a pretty fucked up walk of life. I'm talking about some of that farm shit. But like, and then there was like all that freaking weird other shit because like I set such a hard, heavy pace. Now we're talking about like Pokemon and stuff. So it's just like, it's so cool that how some of these things from our childhoods in the 90s became such beacons of icons of peace a little bit because they're things that people do now which kind of like distract them or they make them happier. But I've thought about that nostalgia as like a feeling of comfort maybe where there shouldn't be comfort.
Well, you know what I think is the difference between our generation even and the ones before us is they would look back on their childhood toys and it would be a teddy bear. It'd be a little wooden horse, you know? They didn't have
that was my
cool toys like we do.
Toys.
Our tools are epic. Our toys were so epic.
Mean, like,
toys are
even
better
maybe
now.
Like you, I had like I had like
I had some pretty cool toys.
Dude, I
even the
had
Game
one
Boy.
teddy bear.
You
Dude,
can
I had a
look
teddy
back at a
bear.
Game Boy and be like, I remember
I
when I was
didn't
a
get it.
kid on a
I
road
didn't
trip
get that
playing my
shit
Game
till I
Boy
was
and
like
trying
13.
to look at it in the streetlights.
I played
You
on a
know?
Game Boy. I played on a Game Gear. I never owned or received any of that till I was like 13 or 14. And then I was limited to how much time I was allowed in a Game Boy. But like freaking yeah, no, I never had that shit when I was like younger. I had a teddy bear I named Blue Eyes though. I was obsessed with that name when I was a kid, Blue Eyes. I don't know why. So like I named my teddy bear Blue Eyes. It did not have blue eyes. It was a
Like
blue
Blue Eyes
teddy bear.
White Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's time to
Sick.
duel.
Yeah, so I
I don't
named
have
it
you. I
Blue
have
Eyes.
Magic the Gathering now. I should
Then
get some
then
Yu-Gi-Oh!
my dad
No, I'm
showed
kidding.
up with his box of kittens when they were building this water line trench out our house. One of the workers brought it. And then so dad showed up with this box of kittens. So I picked this one cat and named it Blue Eyes, which it later got murdered by a hawk. Little bastard.
A hawk?
Yeah, a
Did you
hawk
watch
picked
this
it up.
happen?
Yeah, I was
Holy
outside petting my cat.
a fucking
Check this out.
hawk
I was just a little kid too. I love
picked up
that
your
fucking thing.
cat.
So like I'm picking up my cat. I just loving this
Oh
fucking thing.
no.
And then I put it down, and it's just like walking around like it always does. And I look over, and all of a sudden this fucking hawk just like scoops it up. And I like run in the house, and I'm like, Mom, this fucking bird just took Blue Eyes.
That's crushing, man.
Mom's like,
Put it down.
where?
The
I'm like,
hawk picks.
did you hear me? I'm like, a bird just took my cat. She like, what? We come outside and we can see the bird, and I'm like, you see? Like, and you can see the fucking cat being held by the bird, and the bird drops the fucking thing.
So it would die probably. Then it just like
Yeah.
flies back down.
So I'm sitting there, and then my cat dies. I remember I ran to my room.
Watched it fall to the ground.
Yeah,
God,
I remember I ran to my
terrible.
room, and I'm like, yeah. So first I have this shitty like little start to my childhood where I've been like getting beat up for like fucking 3 years by random equipment, and then I fucking
Equipment
finally
has
get some love in my life, and it fucking dies.
Fuck, man. It's like so shitty. I'm just laughing though.
No, it's funny
Just
because I'm presenting
Oh, I
it.
love you so much. Like if this could be in like a cartoon or something. Like
This is like fucking South Park at its worst.
yeah, I was gonna say like this is like the story of Hitler's life or something. Like all this terrible shit happens and like finally like I just want to be an artist. I just want to do it. And he goes to art school and they're like, no. He's like, you know what? You made a mistake. time to overthrow society.
Yo,
with
yeah,
that party.
imagine if somebody told me I couldn't rap, I would be like, where's the rocket launchers?
Where's the rocket launcher? Wow.
Fucking mayhem
Like,
coming
you
your
know
way.
what? You're gonna be my fireworks.
Yeah, have you ever heard of a Roman candle? Well, now you're fucking gonna be Greek Greek candles too.
Greek
Oh,
candle.
don't forget about
Shoot
the
them with an
Spain
RPG.
candles.
That's
Oh,
not that's
and
like
what
an
up,
ISIS candle.
China?
Here, I'll shoot you with an RPG, make you an ISIS candle.
Oh, check this out. I invented a new missile. It's called fucking coronavirus.
How is that a missile?
It's gonna blow up everything.
Everything, eh?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna name it coronavirus. Here, let me help the virus. Let me
Just
do
gets
something
blown
the
up.
virus can't do.
What
Let
if
me
somebody
just, like,
you knew
get to
died and
evolve
they had
immediately.
coronavirus?
You know what? Honestly, I would
be
be like,
like,
you're a pussy.
This fucking virus. What the fuck?
No, seriously. I'd be like, you're a pussy. I'd be
What if
like,
they have
I
an immune
survived.
deficiency?
Yo, I survived how much shit? Bleeding lungs. I'm still smoking. I'm still dying. And I'm still fucking here rapping. I don't give a fuck about coronavirus. Coronavirus can lick my fucking nuts.
All right.
I
That's a
want to
good
go back to all our
I don't give a
podcasts and
fuck.
like
episode.
In every podcast, there's a one rant where I'm like, fuck this, fuck that. It can lick my nuts pretty much every time. There's always something.
Yeah.
Yeah, coronavirus. Brought you in part by fucking ball swass.
Ball sweat. But doing shots of ball sweat. Because it's nothing anybody wants. Okay. Don't forget your thyroid. So I was thinking, how much would you recommend? As a person who has tattoos.
Get your sweaty balls clean today. And thyroids. For that, there's medication.
No gentler cleanser.
Oh, what? Genital cleanser? What?
Gentle genital cleanser. That's what I would sell.
Gentle
genital.
Gentle genital cleanser.
Gentle genital cleanser.
The real gentle.
Yeah. The
real gentle genital cleanser instead of the real Greg Pelly. Word, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I'll pad that.
Spray for your balls.
It'll be pretty much like fucking toilet paper, $150 a roll.
Like a wipe, yeah, wipes. Wipe your balls.
Yeah, what's the world coming to?
Freaking
not even.
And then you got no bag leg because it's like
4 or 5 years ago, there's a fucking coke epidemic where I was. Nobody had fucking cocaine, so somebody had to bring it in. And then so now it's a toilet paper epidemic. Like how we have evolved, eh? Fucking you morons. You fucktards. You stocking up on toilet paper. You'd have better luck with fucking beer.
All the drug dealers, they're like weighing out pieces of toilet paper instead of drugs. Like, all right, you get half a slice. Okay. You go 0.05 G. Okay,
$25 a gram.
$5. $25 a gram.
I have this shit here. It's like shake, but it's just like fucking got some brown smears on it already. Fucking
you get 1 ply of a triple ply for 5 cents. 15 cents for the whole
quality shit. That's Charmin.
Yeah, Charmin Ultra Strong. We don't fuck around with that shit. $1,000 a roll.
If you want fucking puffs, we're gonna have to up the price.
You know what I would do if I could time travel and I could just take some random shit with me? I would take the best toilet paper from now and take it into the past. And I'd be like, I have something for the royalty. No, it must be for the king and the queen. I have for you something to wipe your ass with. What? This is a revolution. Fucking bring toilet
and then like show them dope kids.
Like, no, they'd be so scared. They'd be like,
you
open a portal to another dimension.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a wizard. Don't worry. Yeah. I'm in control of it. Don't worry. I'm a man and I'm a wizard. This is the past. You'll believe anything I say.
So that's a perfect actual example. So if we actually invented a time machine scientifically, it's like, okay, we could do all these things. We could go back in time like that. And they would be like, that's a portal to another dimension. Wouldn't that exactly be that?
It basically is.
Yeah.
Even just having a song recorded allows you to time travel back to when that song was played.
Check this out. No, this is what I'm going to trip you out with. Is a portal to another dimension when you create a song. So like when you create the song, the portal to the other dimension is like that composed piece is like a mixture between the parties of the physical world and the parties of the spiritual realm. So in the spiritual realm, everything that is dead but has lived is living. And then then there's the ones that are just dead, which would be the ones to rise from the earth after. And then that would be like the spiritual plane, the astral field. So it's like you're using your current demons, your current experiences, all the stuff that you have seen in life, and then you're attaching to those things and using them to create music. You know what I mean? So it's just like, if I'm going to tell you a feel about a song about how I got chopped up by a lawnmower blade, when I create that song, I don't know how a song like that would come out. That'd be a weird song. But like, if I created that
You just
song
gotta
when it
keep it
came
simple.
out, yeah, I
It'd probably
wouldn't
be
do
kind
that.
of punk. Got my foot chopped by a lawnmower blade. My dad said to stay on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
But I jumped off the wrong side of the ride. Now I'm bleeding out my heel.
Yeah.
Help, help, please somebody. Help,
Yeah, so
help.
like,
My shirt's
you
turning
would,
red.
yeah,
I
you
don't know. It
wouldn't
probably wouldn't
really
be that
like,
great of a song.
yeah, you
Because it's
wouldn't
so
really
like.
make a song about that, right? Nobody really is gonna relate to it, nor do they want to hear it. But what's interesting is like, this is where I might do something like, okay, hey Jordan, in the drum beat, I want you to find me a drum that sounds like a drum hitting and then blood dripping down.
That would make sense.
So I'd find something like that, and then I'll take something
Go to the
else
greater
in my
idea.
life. I'll take something else in my life, and then I'll like merge the two together. So it's just like, I was working on that piano piece extensively for Dope Kids, is like when I create it, and then fucking I do it. Jordan's like, it's dope. He starts making it. The song kind of just falls together. Now I'm extensively working on the second one, you know? So like, it's so cool because like, I can take certain sounds and project them a certain way. So this time, rather than just make the song, this time I'm like, how do I want this song to come out sounding? What does this look like this time? You know? So like, I think I'm leaning more towards the dope kids being the kids doing dope this time rather than the kids selling dope. Because I've been on both sides of that fence. So I want to really paint that dual picture.
I think you got a good way of doing that.
Working on it anyways. I was listening to the way I have the album structured right now.
It's really good when you think about that first too, and then you go in with that kind of idea. You're like, here's the chance to do that.
You gotta remember, this is first album, so I'm just finishing up, and I still haven't like released music like ever. This is the first time I've like recorded and been releasing music, right? So this is it is pretty impressive, some of the stuff I've already moved on to doing.
Yeah.
This evolved very
you're building.
If we went back to December 19th and everybody could hear the original Game Boy days, I think I sent Taylor a remastered original version.
I've got
and
the
like
original.
when you listen to that compared to what it sounds like right now, it's like not the same song.
It sounds like a very different song, but it's the same song, but just delivered in a way different way, almost covered by somebody. It's like a cover, you know. It's like transformed.
It sounds
the
a
same
lot
song
different.
kind of transformed. Yeah.
My vocals is like a lot better in the new one and stuff. Things are a lot better sounding, like. But now, like, I like the new structure. I like that it goes Game Boy Days, Dope Kids, Night Thoughts, Nostalgic, Bacardi. It's a nice lightning song in the middle of the album. And then, like, no Living Hell. Living Hell is just staying as a single. And then, then I go Frostbite. Or, wait, is it Frostbite or is it Night Sins? I don't remember which one comes first. No, Frostbite. Then Night Sins, then Live, then Blotter Beat. But yeah, like I said, adding those other two in. I can't wait to fucking get Drug Dealer's Testament done. That one's gonna be a fun one to do. I got some pretty crazy flow for that going,
yeah. That's good. It's a hell of a jam.
It's some badass shit. It's good stuff. See, like, I think those things when I was in my childhood where I almost died and I had that many, like, really, like, eye-opening, like, holy fuck, don't do that events, it made me really, like, okay, well, I got the hard part out of the way already. It's like, okay, that's death? Okay, I got it. Pretty much I'm going to black out. I'm going to die like that. But something was different then. When I was a child, it felt different. It felt like there was this voice that was like, it's okay. Now, I don't think that same voice would say the same thing, you know? So that's an interesting aspect. But like, yeah, so all those events kind of led me to be like very violent when I was older. I was just like, got beat up lots. My parents tried to teach me to do the right thing. And so I just like would try not to like engage in conflict, and it always ended up in conflict by trying not to engage in it, which is like told me weird mixed messages about the like nature of people. So like I would literally being passive while everybody else was being taught to feel this thing inside themselves to be like, I'm special. You know, I wasn't being taught that. I was being taught like life's about work. We don't have money. That's all that matters. You got to help out. This is it. This is how it goes, you know? And it's just like, okay, we weren't the rich family. Start off, okay, I wasn't born in a rich family, so that's not how that works, you know? So, like, there's a lot of misconceptions that came from that. Kind of just, like, led me into the wrong way of thinking. I wasn't really able to deal with that because there wasn't much of a childhood. My childhood consisted of the cutting grass, archery. I was using a compound bow by the time I was like 10.
It's really cool. I really like shooting bows.
I just like just shooting at things like old mattress I made target with.
Did you have a target? You made a target out of a mattress?
Yeah. So like we had hay bales on the old farmhouse in Manitoba where we had all that big grass and all that open. When we moved to Alberta, I just was in Edinburgh there. I had one of the houses that has been redone now. It used to be log sided, but I was in the back there, and Dad had set up a mattress. But no, I remember that day. I was like, there's weird moments that kind of like magnified my relationship with my dad, and one of them was that bow because like I was only like 8 or 9, and my dad was. I said to Dad, I'm like, hey, can you set up like a mattress so I can shoot at it with the bow? He's like, you can't even pull that thing back. And I like grabbed the bow and I showed him I could pull it back now, and he's like, all right. So then like, but it was 80 pounds a draw, and I'm like 8 or 9 years old or 10 years old, and I'm pulling this thing back already.
That's like superhuman at that level. Like that's so much. That's really heavy.
Dude, I was throwing square bales when I was like 5. So after all that shit happened, that's why I was in the back of Uncle Arnold's truck at 4 when I got backed over. So like fucking, so I'm at 5 years old, even back throwing square bales. It was like normal. Like I fucking had 6-pack by the time I was like 13, easy. Like I even look at some of my younger pictures. I was a jacked little like kid for my age. Like I was fucking pretty ripped, and like I'm still strong as fuck. Like, but it's different now. My strength is no longer like what can my muscles perform. It's more what can my consciousness perform. So the other day I was doing presses with the kettlebell, and I did fucking 40 around the body one way, 40 around the other way, and I did 25 presses on each hand.
Really?
Like nothing. Just like each time, just fucking boom, down, boom, up, down, and like effortless. I'm like not even really breathing. And I throw it around, and then so like I fucking did the one arms, did that for a while, and then after a while I was just like, well, it's a good workout, and I'm breathing a little bit, but like I'm not really like, it's not much. But I realized that same thing in music, that I'll do dope kids. Like Jordan was like, holy crap, you're insane. He said that. I'm like, let's do this again. I'll get it this time. So then it's like the session ends rather than just like a wait time and a reset. I'm like, no, hit the record button. Let's go again. Like it's coming around. I fuck it up like halfway through, and then he ends it. And then like as soon as it gets to the end, I start again, and he's like, no. And I'm like, no, let's fucking go. So like
Take
we've
after
done it
take.
like 100 times, and he's like, "You're insane, Greg," and he's just like, "What are you possibly gonna do better?" And I'm like, because it sounds great, like it sounds fine, right? And I'm like, "Well, this is one thing." He's just like, "What one thing?" He's like, "What are you gonna make better?" I'm like, "Well, when you put it like that," he's like, "It's good." I'm like, "No, it's not good enough." I'm like, "Let's do it again." He's just like, all right. And then so I do it again, and I'm like, that one. He's just like, you're ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, I did Game Boy
Sometimes it
days
takes a lot of takes.
time,
Sometimes it takes like very few takes.
but I really wanted it to sound like
Like
what
you
it
have some
sounded like in my
freestyles.
head, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why you gotta have a lot of time in the studio, and you have to be really in control of what you're doing, and very specific too.
Well, I'm finding that less of an option. I just was like, we get there, and then I'm like, that doesn't sound how I want it to sound. He's like, how do you want it to sound? I'm like, not like
Not like
that.
dog shit. I want to sound fucking really cool.
No, he's good. Like Jordan's really amazing at like depicting because I'll like give him the most ridiculous description. Like you know my descriptions of making you work out. Like you can imagine like I treat my music like that. So I'm pretty much like, okay, so this is the kind of sound I want for a song. And he like sends me something and it's a perfectly fine beat, but I'll just be like, no, that's not what I want. And he's just like I'm like, but that's a good beat though. And then I'll listen to it again, and then I'll hear that like little thing that he put in there that like is to simulate what I described, and I'm like, okay. One time, I gave him some stupid text message. It was like that long, and I'm like, this is how I want the song to sound, and then like come to his house, and frickin' that's how it sounds, and I'm like, word up. And like it was that fucking Frostbite song because I was like, I want an old school, like I want to take it back to like the 80s hip hop era. I like want to take that and modernize it a bit and really just deliver like this heartfelt song kind of thing. Because like I was feeling these emotions and stuff. And like, yeah, no, because it was of all parties of people I knew and things that had happened in my life around me, and so like fucking yeah, when we did that and it comes out like that, like yeah, it was a good experience because I like walk in the studio, he plays it, and I'm like, yeah, play that again. I want to hear that, you know?
Yeah, it really makes it feel great. There's some songs where it's like you listen back to it and it's like this is exactly what I was looking for, I was going for, wouldn't change a thing about it, and you know it just really sets you on this like blissful thing. But there's some recordings that's like for me, I look back on the recordings I've been a part of, and almost all of them I want to re-record. You know, but there's a lot of good stuff about what we did.
So
That
yeah,
makes it a lot.
re-recording at this point, like
Re-recording
if
is
I was
a cool
you,
idea.
I would be like re-recording the stuff that you want to re-record, but I
But I
would
don't want
like
to live in
take
the
out of
past is
all
the
your
thing. So
material. No, but out of all your
I want
material,
to just
I would
record.
take like I would take like 5 songs, your best songs, maybe even 7, out of all your stuff, your 7 top ones, and make one CD out of that and ditch your other CDs.
Just try to make the ultimate CD.
No, but that's essentially what you're doing, right? See, the only difference between you and me is you've been publishing music for quite some time now. Here's the difference with me is like I've been writing my music that was worth publishing for quite some time. So I can just go to my repertoire, pick golden verses that I've wrote throughout the years and make a dope ass song out of it. You see what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
freaking you have like that big stack of lyrics and stuff. I would go through that and I literally mean like take your fucking 7 best songs, record them good, get the master, make them sound exactly how you want to get them, and there's an EP or there's a small CD. Like do it up.
Yeah. I should
And
really
you
look
could,
on what I have written and what music I
I,
have written right now and what lyrics I
I
have
think
written and see if anything
Taylor
can match.
Elliott needs to brand as an artist all by himself. I want to hear what the real Taylor Elliott has to say.
There's a few things I would have to say. I would want to like sit back and try to take a kind of a third person look at my life and be like, in this aspect, make that a song, take this kind of thing, make that a song. Either looking to the past and accepting what the past was, or like learning even what the past was, and then seeing what things are now. It could be another one for
See
things like
how what you're
relationships,
describing
and then there
is
could be
like a personal.
observations. Like
See
there's some
what you're
personal.
describing is like a personal like battle. Like the way you
There's
do
like
your art is like
who
this
is the real me,
personal
right?
like
So there's
yeah.
the
So you
personal
sorted
me.
through these
There's the
ideas.
observing me. There's the analytical me. There's like all these different colors, I guess, or flavors of
You still haven't
life.
pulled it together. You still haven't like merged all
There's
these
what I
things together. You
want to
still
go
have
to,
this
what I want to provide.
separation.
There's
You have these
like an
separations.
homages. There's like tributes.
Tributes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck you're tributing, but you better not be fucking doing anything like that. That seems fucked up.
Tribute
Tri-
to
I
the
have to say,
geniuses.
so tributes. Let's
Tribute to
just
Tesla.
discuss that word.
Tribute to
No, let's just discuss that word
Newton.
tribute. What the hell is a tribute exactly? Because to me, that's some pretty fucked up shit. That sounds like I'm giving my
volunteer as tribute.
offerings. I'm giving my offerings to this thing. That's
Tribute is
such a
an offer,
weird
yeah.
word. Yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
weird word. Like, and then tribulation.
It's like tribes.
It like all
Did
is
that shit.
one, but it's like offering.
Yeah, to an idea almost.
Yeah, so that's the whole idea of what the government's trying to promote anyways, and there's nothing conspiracy about that. That's just like exactly what we want. We want to put everything under one reign of order so that like Canada is not responsible for its government and US is not responsible and China is not responsible. This way you don't have deals between like the US and the China in the trade organization not working out to one country is in debt and one's not. That under one UN government where each country has a representative into that government. That seems to be the way humanity has to go. But getting there is going to be an ugly process, and getting there, we're not going to be there for long. So, like I said, when we were revisiting earlier in this, we were talking about how like this was prophesied. This is some weird times. This coronavirus is fucked. Like it's got me like fucking really thinking about life. Because I'm like, a week ago, I didn't think anything like that was going to happen anytime soon. And then all of a sudden it did. And I'm not thinking about dying and I'm not thinking about getting it. What I'm thinking about is like this placebo effect that's been put out into society that's however they've accessed it or it's affecting people or maybe it is real. It doesn't matter because God was talking about plagues that would hit the earth during this time too. And then like the increase in volcanic eruptions, the earthquake, all in 2020. Wasn't there 3 volcanoes erupt and an earthquake?
I'm sure there was at least two volcanoes, and there was the flooding in the caves.
Yeah, true. And all that happened just this year, so far.
Well, that was last year, some of this. But this year, I mean, Australia's fires. Yeah. Still war in like Syria.
Yeah, those are crazy things to think about.
There's some other stuff too.
It's apocalyptic behavior from the globe. It's not just like what man's doing, and it's not just what the globe is doing. It seems to be what those two things are doing hand in hand together. And that's the scary part, is man has exceeded its power. So the way we've taken our knowledge to say we know, or because we have science, right? We tap into these knowledges and we build things and we do things with this hope of it staying forever. No matter what it is. It can be a building, it can be anything, right? And when we do these things, the globe has another agenda, like actual life and the way that works. So like, boom, something could happen that caused the whole world to freeze over tomorrow. The ice age had happened once already long ago. In this case, it's going to be the opposite spectrum. It doesn't look like an ice age, but stuff's changing around the globe, you know? It's like very much so going to enter a different time. And forever we've saw the human species as a species that can live. But that's where the ego surpassed the knowledge, you know? Like, just because you're a life form, at what point does your life form become big enough inside your mind that you think you can survive all outcomes? That seed alone is like pretty much the story in the beginning.
I think just the fact that we're here right now gives proof to the, maybe not proof, well, I guess proof that there's the will to go to the further point.
Yeah, so the will.
We are here. We have the possibility to keep going. We are going on right now.
So there's the agenda. It's like, do you serve that globe agenda? It's just like life just moves in this way, or are you serving that agenda? It says it's like, do what thou will. What do you want to do? Because you can overcome. What exactly are you overcoming? And why are you overcoming it? And should you be overcoming it? And is it something you should be messing with? Those are all questions I would ask in a situation like that, because the ultimate reality is like, okay, I have a fear of heights, right? So one approach might be like, I have to overcome my fear of heights, okay? Because why not? So like, I'm gonna go bungee jumping. All right, so that's not a good experience. It tortures me the whole time. In what way is this good? Okay, so it's like, oh, you can overcome it. Okay, well, for some people, the fear might be just to fall, so they fall once and they're okay with it. My case, no, that wouldn't be the case. I would jump and the whole time would be torturous. But you always have the group of people that are like, oh, do this, or you're a puss, or why don't you just jump, or you're able to do that, right? You can overcome this. That's just a fear, and fear is just an illusion, and they'll give you this breakdown, okay? And we'll really heavily promote this. But the whole time that that's taking place, nobody thinks about the science of like, well, 1 in 10,000 that rope might break. You know? So then when it does happen, we say, oh, wow, that was like one of those times. It's like 90% of the time it's okay, but 10% of the time it's not. But that's okay.
I think it's a lot less percent that it's not.
Yeah.
I think it's very rare, but
yeah. I'm not
happen,
saying.
Right?
Yeah, my point is how we take control over it. Okay. Now, if you have this conscious entity that says you're allowed to have control over that because they're not going to do anything to stop it. Pretty much God's saying, hey, I put you on earth now, just live your life accordingly. But if you cross certain laws, like if you fuck with gravity, this might happen. Okay. This is the outcome. This could potentially happen. But 90% of the time, you'll get away with it. Right? So people are seeing this as a sheer pleasure. It's enjoyment. But what I really want to break down is like, what wasn't one of the things was like, don't tempt God. So like, when you start performing your life to carry out ways and to simulate something, a rush from death. So that's where the sorcery lies. You're going to bungee jump off this bridge. You're going to take a dip into death and be okay after, because the bungee's going to save you. And that's a very fucked up thing to think about. That cord is like all the things attached to you. And so you tie yourself into reality because, like, I can't possibly not exist. So I tie myself into it and I jump off that bridge. And I call that faith, but it's not faith because I've protected myself before I've done it. So I live off that energy to say, but I've conquered my fear, and if I can do this, I can do this. And if I can jump off a bridge, I can get my finances in order. And if I could jump off a bridge, I can maybe go skydiving. And like, you live off that energy. And so what are we doing? We're getting drunk on the way of the world. We're getting drunk on laws that aren't fundamentally ours. We're trying to control something we shouldn't fundamentally be controlling. It's kind of like I said about the sorcery of music, except that's like the sorcery of adrenaline rush. But how is that any different than sitting back and taking a dose of heroin with a needle?
When you're going to bungee jump and you're like, normally it's like leap of faith, right? Where your faith kind of protects you as you go on this like journey or something. When you're jumping off the bungee jumping, your faith goes into the equipment that's protecting you, right? Because when you said that you jump, you don't have to have faith because you protect yourself first. But you kind of like,
yes,
it's so always somewhere.
The faith comes down to only the mental switch in your mind to say, I'm going to jump or I'm not going to jump. So that is now a conscious decision. We've always had a choice. That's nothing new. But the thing is like, real faith would be, can you jump off there without equipment? Because you're going to use that feeling to say, hey, look, I jumped off this bridge.
Pretty stupid, I think.
Yeah, well, no,
you know what? If you did it, I'd probably do it. I'm just kidding.
No, but like, of course, it would be stupid to do it without equipment, right? But my point being is like, real faith would be to do it without equipment. You can't say, okay, this is the law of gravity. It's existed since time. I'm going to bungee jump and cheat this law because I'm not going to die when I jump off this. So now it's going to hold me in the air. So I'm actually defying a law of creation. Okay. Now I jump off and I'm hanging out in the air and I'm perfectly fine and it's all good. Now I'm going to go about my life and say, hey, yeah, I did that. I jumped off a bridge. And that's how that's going to go too. You're going to be like, yo, yeah, I jumped off a bridge once. And that's how you'd present it too. You're not going to be like, I jumped off a bridge with a cord on my ankle. You're going to be like, I jumped off a bridge. Oh, and it's got a name. It's called bungee jumping. So I went bungee jumping off a bridge. Sounds way more badass than it really is. It's just like, yeah, you jumped off a bridge, you bungee jumping, you're the man. It's like, yeah, you overcame your fear. You do that with everything. You approach everything in life. Yeah, I'm determined. I jumped off that bridge. Well, the rope still could have broke.
Yeah.
Somebody might have even, maybe they're twisted like me. Maybe they're up top and they're like, oh, fuck you. Cut it.
He made a joke at him like, this guy made fun of feminists. So I'm going to cut his rope.
Fuck you, you little fuck.
So, I don't know. I wouldn't cut the fucking rope for any of that shit.
I would cut, yeah, make a joke. I'd cut the rope. I'd be like, oh, you thought you were going to be okay, did you? You can just cheat gravity and it's all good, did you? Well, I got news for you. Fuck you.
Where's God now? Where's your God now? That's pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Yeah. I've come a long way in my thoughts and my like processes. Like, I've really accepted this like idea of, I guess, Christianity to be ultimately probably the most truth. Like, I really think like we should be trying to appease God in whatever way. And the thing is like, first we would have to get around this idea that we think we know what's right, because we don't. And people are quick to go like, well, what's going to tell us what's right? yourself still, but not yourself. You know what I mean? Like, just put the ego out of the way, get that out of there. Fucking stop worshiping material items. Stop living to fucking build material items. It's just really ultimately simple. Live for the sake of the unity of one another, not live for the sake of fucking look what I did. You know? But to a lot of people, I guess God means, I don't know what it means, but it's become just as much of a demon as some of the actual demons that are out there. To people, anyways. It's like become like the scent of death to people. And the reason being is because then they have to put to death their ways. You know, like this is how I've done things, and I don't want to change those things. And it's a really hard seed for us to change. Believe me, I face it every day. Every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, I know this is right, and I'm still going to do this. That's a shitty place to live, but I live there because it's the truth.
Yeah, you can't deny the truth. Once you know the truth, that's it. You can know the truth. So what else is there? You know,
ultimate truth is like
choice. There's knowing the truth, and then there's making choices.
Yeah, and making choices.
And maybe you don't know the entire truth, and somebody's like, "Does he know the truth? Do you know this one thing?" And it's like, "Yeah, I know that." And like, okay, he probably knows this other thing too. I would never do that. If you ever do that, don't do that. I'm scared about that.
That's not always the case. Some people are like, oh, you don't know the whole truth. But here's what's interesting is people want to project what they understand is true. They just want people to join them on their quest. They don't want people to like be independent. Because if you have a belief that goes against what I believe, that's a problem for me. You know what I mean? Because it's like I overcome these things. And I see it that way. So that's why I look at like saying, and that's why I think it's important to have common terms. So this is where we got the idea of a monotheism, like having one God for everything, ultimately to begin with. It's just like, okay, so what's truth? Truth is exclusive to be truth. And so God is the representative of that truth. So we're going to call everything right God and everything wrong not God. The problem being is like that devil temptation, I guess, was always there the whole time. It was like the truth is it's always existed. There was always a choice. The truth is not this history provides proof that this one doesn't exist. It's like it did exist like this, now it existed like this, and now it's this. You see what I'm saying? Like it all works together perfectly fine. There is no contradicting. There is no science goes hand in hand with the Bible. Science is a description of a conscious God.
That's probably why there's so many cycles and the law of cycles and things like that. You know, water cycle, rock cycle, life cycle. Everything kind of repeats itself all the time. I try to like avoid that. World patterns. I want to be a zigzag. Check this out. That doesn't make any sense.
Ecosystem. I'll show you how like the demonstration of sorcery works. Okay, so we gain knowledge as power. So like the ecosystem works like an ecosystem. You get precipitation from clouds off the coast and dampened areas next to the ocean, and then that travels and it goes across the country and it creates rain in certain areas and storm and weather and chain effects. That's an ecosystem. Check this out. So humanity evolves over thousands of years, and we get to a point where we create freaking the supply chain. Okay? So the supply chain is essentially just an advanced hunter-gatherer chain. First, it was like,
for professionals,
man, you go out and get your food for the entire village. And it was like, okay, man, now you go out and get your food for your family. Now it's just like, now man goes and gets their food from a place that comes from another place that came from another place that came from another place, and that's called the supply chain. So first you got just the regular old food chain, now you got the supply chain. So that's where man has taken an idea that wasn't theirs and taken credit for it. You see what I'm saying? So they go and they say, okay, look, we created this. Look how far we've come. Look at what we've done. We've created this system. We have this food chain, and nothing's ever going to crash it. Okay? Unless we want it to be. So then coronavirus shows up, and now everybody's like, oh, the supply chain's hurt. But they already knew this. They were like, no, nothing can crash it unless we want it to be crashed. And then they just like flip that shit off, right? So that they can reintroduce another chain. You see? But that's one power that first exists in the world, the ecosystem, and we transfer it into this whole other thing. The ecosystem supported weather, but it also supported this animal eats this animal eats this animal, right? But then this other system supports those same things, except it's one we created and say we created, but it's the same system. We're using those same powers, those same things.
It's pretty cool how we can take those ideas, those powers, and kind of inspirations and craft things. You know, the very fact we can have ideas. So beautiful.
So that's yeah, that's beautiful. So you like right there.
And now there's a supply chain thing, which is something different.
That's the law of creation. You looked at that right there, and you're like, so that's the law of creation. Now, this is what I was talking about yesterday or 2 days ago. Why do you know that? When you say it's beautiful, why do you know that? Well, that's because this is what model creation.
What values I have.
Okay, yes, precisely. Because if you think about it in the way of like, okay, well, I was never supposed to know this. I wasn't supposed to eat from this tree to begin with. I'm not supposed to know God's law. That's God's law. That's how he created everything. And I'm using it on my own will to create things and not know what I create. Do you see the difference? That's how spirits live through me. That's how I can end up with a song that sounds demonic instead of ending up with a song that sounds heavenly. It doesn't matter if I go to church and got baptized and worship Jesus and pray to God and do all these things. If I behave in my life like that, I still get a song that ends up coming out sounding like that.
Yeah. There's connection throughout all of everything. There's a connection point between everything. You know, it's really cool. And if you can connect those points, that's when you kind of do the cosmic gymnastics of, I don't even know what to call this.
I call it sorcery. I don't think it's white magic. I don't think, like, you're not supposed to feel good about these feelings. Like, these feelings make us feel
not all white magic is that.
No, but like here's simple white magic. Let me give you a different definition. So all magic for personal gain is not really white magic. But if I were to do, like, if I jump in front of a bullet to save your life from getting killed by that bullet, that would be what people want to call white magic. But that has another term too. That's called love. Okay? So like that's love. That's simple. That's a white magic thing. So you got patience, you got kindness. So these are things we call the fruits of the spirit. At least in religion, those things are called the fruits of the spirit. Patience, peace, kindness, thoughtfulness, self-control, gentle. You know, things that imitate peace. Then you got the other things in life. Ambition and careers and goals, consequence and repercussion. Because if you take God out of the equation, now consequence and repercussion has to be a thing. And I'm not talking about I didn't make supper and the repercussion is I'm hungry. I mean, like, the consequence is, like, I need to now justify everything I do in life. So when I hit the point in life when I say, okay, I'm sick of living my life like this, I'm going to live a different way, I have to be the one to forgive myself for the things I've done. And that can't be truly ever done by me, ever. Like, no matter what. Because I'm a human, there'll always be that side of me that will say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And that hurts me that I did that to another person. And I shouldn't have treated the person like that. And I don't mean in a sense of, like, yeah, it could be in a sense of just verbal, but I'm talking even physical. Like, there's been a lot of things I've done I wish I just didn't do. I can't forgive myself for that. The only thing that could possibly forgive me for that would be the creation of life, which I didn't create.
Well, that's quite the connections. I'm having trouble putting it all together like you have it, just from the speed of everything that went by. I was like, that's like a train rolling through. Wow. I'm just along for the ride right now.
Along for the ride. You know, I've had a lot of time to really just perfect this and, like, think about this idea. Not so much perfect it, but really, like, understand where I stand on some stuff. Because, like, as the world starts to evolve, it doesn't matter if I make music or not. Like, I really truly believe the stuff that I make now, like, it isn't gonna matter later. It isn't. But what does matter is that I pass time and I figure out how to do things. So every day that I grow, I just kind of, like, make music as long as I'm going. Like I said, current update. But, like, if it's gonna help me deal with a feeling, that's what I tell myself for now. But I try not to let myself dictate what's right and wrong. I try to just, like, allow my feeling to be like, okay, what do I want to tell people? Because if I tell somebody something and it's wrong, that's a big deal. Like, if I mislead somebody's soul to being damned, that's a pretty big deal. So how could I be so sure I'm right? So anybody who believes something will tell you, okay, how can you be so sure God exists? And I could say the same thing. How can you be so sure that he doesn't?
Every person finds their own way to God or away from God or whatever they choose.
The ultimate truth is the same. It's just like every person finds their way to and from God, right? And that's the truth. They find their way to and from throughout their lives. And that's the path. That's the truth. That's the human nature. I accept that I'm human and I accept I'll do things wrong and I'll accept I'm on this path, but sometimes I'm on this path. And then sometimes I'm back on this path. But this path, this left-handed one, I'm always on it. I'm on this bad path all the time. And occasionally I reach from this path out of my nature that I'm heavily ingrained with. And I go and say, I'm going to do something good because I want to be pleasing to something. You know, nobody does something good just because they just want to do it. That doesn't exist, not in human nature. It's always that status of, look, I did it, or the status of saying that you did it, which is, again, that power. And there's that drunkenness of life. I'm getting off on that power. I'm saying, look, I did something nice. I am this thing, and I am the representative of this because I did this thing. No, what you are is putting false doctrine in by your behavior of your life and giving that to the world. And that's called deceit. That's anti-Christ. That's not Christ. That's not peaceful. You didn't help by saying, I have an answer. You help by saying, this is the truth, not by having an answer. The truth is this. And every conversation goes there no matter what the topic is. It will get to a point where the truth becomes evident, and then both parties or multiple parties always have the choice to say, okay, what do they think the truth is and what do they believe? And that's why man can be held accountable for what they do. It's because they can choose from the information they're provided. Which is the same reason why we say, oh, why would you do that, you idiot? Why did you steal a car? We know that you're going to go to jail. We know people track cars now. So why would you even try that?
And what's with you? You know, some people have everything pointing at them. And they have nothing really helping them out. So like, hey, look, a car. You know, if I sold that, these little things pointing at me would point at somebody else for some time.
Yeah, so like so like you got lots of seeds there. You got some jealousy maybe going on. Other people were treated better than me.
There's definitely the frustration of this is not easy and it's not going to be easy. How do I deal with this when it's not this, when everything's hard, you know?
Because every time somebody shut me down in life where I was at a point where I was like right angry, not every time was like, oh, I want to kill myself. Sometimes it was like, I want to kill somebody. And then sometimes it was like, well, if I want to, but when you hit that point, it's like,
and harm to others.
If I want to kill somebody, then it would go to like, okay, well, I'm not really going to do that. So then what's the next stage? It's just like, oh, I'm going to rob somebody, or I'm going to sell some drugs, or I'm going to, you know, like that's becomes the next thing in the plan. And when you're a child, like when you're like 15 and those become your thoughts, you know, like it really sets in motion the pace of your life. You just kind of like, there was one time I was going to kill.
It's like living in a whole different world.
Yeah, I was going to kill a bunch of people on my bus because I got bullied lots when I was like growing up. So one time I was actually going to shoot a bunch of people on my bus. And I remember I was just like, I used to listen to music all the time on my bus, and I was like sitting there thinking, something stops me from doing it. And it was this feeling of like, you don't want to do that. It wasn't a feeling of like, I care about the law, because I was already made the decision that I was already going to do it. And I already made a plan and I was about to carry it out, you know, but I didn't. I stopped myself. And here we are years later. And so, like, that's something I haven't stopped to think about lots, but when you stop to think about it, it's kind of weird, because now that I'm actually, like, experiencing some of the medical things I'm experiencing, I'm like, well, I want to live. Back then, I was prepared to, and this is when I was 15, so this is just, I'm 29 now, so it's just 14 years ago. I was prepared to kill everybody on that bus and then kill myself. And those were the overlapping points of difference in my life. Like, I really, like, I did live in that realm. I was always in a state of shock. I was always in a state of survival. And I was always, like, really alert and, like, I'll hit that guy and I'll catch that punch and I'll duck out of the way of that and I'll shoot that guy in the head over there. You know what I mean? Like, and, like, real extensive planning, too, of, like, how it's like going to go.
Because you had your imagination, right? It was working. Just like every other kid's, right? But yours wasn't working. Okay, what if Superman fought the Hulk? You're thinking, what if this guy fights me right now? What if there's a threat? You know, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's a whole nother world, you know, and you have no way to communicate that world to other people that have no context that even makes sense like that. You can tell them, oh, I had all this bad stuff happen. And they're like, some people will be like, oh, did your mom kiss it better? Like, they just don't even have any idea what it is, you know? Or, like, just think that you're trying to get some attention. Like, I don't know. People are bad.
And there's some good people too. No, but that's what I mean. It isn't good and bad people. It's just like every person's good and bad. The ego side of it is what causes that. The ego side, well, I had to go through hard things in life and I got over those hard things. They don't stop because it, like you said, it's a pissing contest. They don't stop to be like, okay, How hard is it? Because if they do, they're gonna listen, and if they listen, then they're gonna know, you know. And
Yeah.
then they're gonna be like, oh, well, my life wasn't that bad, and some good can come out of it, right?
They probably
Everybody
see
goes through
you, they see
times.
that it was hard, and they say, I don't want any of that anywhere near, so I'm just gonna make fun of them so it goes away, not knowing what
Yeah,
kind of effect it was gonna have.
yeah,
And there you
literally
are
that,
thinking
like,
about
that happens lots.
killing people and like,
I've heard that, like, don't be so negative, like, or why are you dwelling on the past? People like to use that one a lot with me, and it's funny because every person that's ever said that to me has usually said it immediately after telling me a past story about their lives.
they
So
open up, and
yeah,
then you
they
open up
open
and they're
up,
like,
and then
don't
I
dwell.
start to open up, and they're like, don't dwell on the past. Every time. Fucking, like, I can name like 35 people that have done that to me in like maybe 10 years.
I bet you it helps them. I bet you by telling you not to dwell in the past, it got them to forget about whatever they were
But,
talking.
but, like that lyric in my song, in the Night Thought song, it's just like, I'm about to take you all off the planet, grab your souls, and give you damage. It's just like they fucking resent me into such hate that I, like, this point in my life, like, I actually hit points where I have like so much hate and so much rage against humanity that I like see myself as one as the idol of Satan, which is interesting because like I see that spirit of her, that symbology, and I just hate humanity so much. I'm like, yeah, please, Saint, and be me so I could fucking fuck everybody up. Because I just want to fucking kill them all.
Make me
Over and
10
over and
stories
over
tall.
again.
Give me a
You know what I
giant
mean?
flaming sword made out of death magic, and send me to New York or
Yeah,
somewhere fucking.
straight up.
Send me to the
I'm
center
like,
of the earth, and I'll crack the
I'm like,
planet.
God, I'm like, I love you, but I'm prepared to kill these motherfuckers. Can I kill them yet? Please?
I love you, but not these humans that you made. This was a mistake. They're gonna take over
Yeah.
Mars soon.
Who does that
Better
sound like?
deal with them first.
Dude, who does that sound like? Go back, if you go back and you research like the original stories of Satan and like how the fall happened, that sounds exactly like Satan. He hates humans. He doesn't like them. He wants them all to fucking suffer and die. And I understand God and I see the truth and I'll talk about it, but yet I have this ego inside me that I can't get over. That I just like can't. Like that's me being truthful. Like I cannot get past this ego. Like no matter how much I know about God, there's always this thing in my way that's like I will keep making rap music. I will keep talking about it. I will keep doing this. And I realize like where the sin lies and I know where it's wrong. I just won't stop because I love being my own person so fucking much.
Yeah. You've got kind of like superpowers out of all the hardship and struggles in a way, almost like superpowers, like Goggins.
Yeah, but
You know you can fucking.
they call it psychological problems, though. They don't call it superpowers. They call it
I
fucking
guess
mentally
so.
ill.
I guess it's probably way worse than it is good.
No, it's not
I'm not
worse
gonna
at all.
glorify this.
Like,
It's
no, you
bad
should glorify it because like fucking it's amazing. Like I can sit
in
here and
some
think
ways.
and like no, you have no idea the essence of
Like
my
the
life.
the the,
Like
the
I
very
don't have
like you're
to.
just like I'm going to do rap. I'm gonna do rap. I'm gonna do rap. I'm gonna work out. Like you're so
Yeah.
focused.
So
You're so
lately,
undeterrable.
lately that
To,
focus I've been trying to say, okay, why am I trying to distract myself from what's true? And then those are times I'm stopping to be like, spend some time with God in a way, because I'm like, those focuses, those drives, that slavery, that torture, that pain, that work. Like you just do this repetitive work over and over and over and over again, and you gain the results from it. To me, that's craft. To me, that's witchcraft. To me, that's sacrifice. To me, that's gaining your power from Satan. That's like I'm gonna lap it up. I'm gonna do everything. But now I'm trying to stop those things, and I've realized I've done this so long in my life. This is what it means for sin to exist in the world, that I'm gonna keep doing these things. So this is where I see the applicable reason to have a figure like Jesus that exists. Look at that. I even quotation that. It fucks me up to my core. I hate that fucking word.
I think
Straight up.
if
I'm being honest with myself, I don't like that word because it freaking really challenges a lot of how I live my life.
What word is that exactly?
When I said Jesus and I quotated it, I was like, Jesus, I always do that. And it's because I literally like have this weird like fucking hate that I don't want to face that to be reality, because if that's reality, because I'm well educated and I've had enough personal experiences, if that's the reality, it's just like the reality is I got to change things in my life. That's what I mean. I won't change those things. I'm like, I'm gonna rap, I'm gonna do these things no matter what. And that's the problem, is like I shouldn't be imposing my demons into the world, and that's what I'm doing with my music essentially.
Yeah.
Somebody might hear the song and be like, oh, he overcame hardships, and the next person's going to hear the song and be like, oh, I'm going to sell drugs just like that.
Yeah.
And I can't say that that's not my fault, because I'm aware of that.
You don't know how it's gonna affect people, and you can't control
No,
it.
I do know how it's going to affect people. It's going to be one or the other.
I guess there's two kind of ways it could easily go, but
so there's that truth thing again. See what I mean? That half truth is like, oh, we don't know, so we'll just do it and it's okay. But the real truth is, you do know, just don't do it. The real truth is like, why would I do that? Why do I want to put my implications out there? So that's where the ego battle comes from. The ego battle is like, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to describe who I am to the rest of the world because nobody's ever heard it. Everybody told me and kind of just pushed me along throughout life. And finally, I get mad enough that I'm like, here's my fucking voice, you little fox, right? And I go out and I like do all this music. Well, I'm doing it out of like my own ego, out of my own hate, my own jealousy, my own rage. There's a lot of feelings, and I call it healthy because I'm taking those feelings and channeling it in this way. But just because it's psychological and paints a picture, it's considered art instead of it being considered legitimate. But the thing is the spirit's strong enough that if I put enough hate into a song, I can make people feel that fucking vibe, right? They could literally want to act on that.
It could. I'm sure that it's happened before.
Yeah, I'm sure it happens all the time.
There's a lot of bands. There's bands that literally make music for that. It's kind of fucked up. I don't know why they would want to spread that specifically, like intentionally.
Yeah, so that would be like waking up in the morning and being like, yo, I had this negative thought. Have you ever thought about stabbing a baby in the eye? And then, oh, pass it on all day. Like, that's your thought all day. Just dwell on that. Like, so that's like how my mind worked behind the scenes of the stuff that I didn't like speak about when I was younger. I remember beating a shit out of a plastic wagon with a hatchet when I was like 7, just because I was like depressed. So I was experiencing depressed feelings at a young age.
It's weird how a lot of like restrictions that have happened in our lives, in our childhoods and stuff, that change things, that we couldn't have the same ways of dealing with stuff. So, and I don't know, with you getting depressed with life makes perfect sense, and then taking it out with a hatchet, yeah, that's some old school way of dealing with it.
Yeah, that was the only way I knew how to deal with it, because like there was no such thing as go to my parents and be like, I'm depressed, because I did that once, and I remember dad being like, knock it off of that shit. All right, no room for being depressed, not here. No room for feeling. And I've noticed that a lot about the older generation. Like the generation before us was like, you don't have time to feel like that. Fucking go to work, get your shit done.
Yeah, you're basically, I think they encouraged them to just forget about it and just pretend that it doesn't exist. and then hopefully it goes away, which I'm sure happened. And finding that greater purpose, I think, happened through work too.
And that's the deceit that we don't want to live in. Because I think about for example, you know what, my whole life, I'm just going to use a story from the other day. My whole life, I've like gone through my life, and like right before I can even talk, you got people being like, he's lying, he's doing this, and I'm like, I don't even talk. What do you mean? You know? And then like I'm getting beat when I'm younger and all this shit going on. And then I get older and people accusing me of lying when I'm not even fucking lying, like ever. You know what I mean? I'm like always being honest. And then I finally, like, that was one thing I was really good at, was that one. I was always good at like literally being like, this is what I'm doing. It was up to the person to believe me or not. You know? So the other day, Dylan was like, said something about brushing his teeth, or Grandma said something about brushing her teeth, and Dylan's like, well, Pelly always forgets to get us to brush our teeth. And I'm like, right away, I'm like, that is a lie. Like, and it like makes me mad. Like, I'm like, he's 8, and his grandma stops me, and she's like, he's just a kid. Why? Like, don't get so mad. Okay. And like I thought about it, and like, yeah, granted, she's right. He is just a kid, and he's got to learn this. But I was just enraged for like maybe about 2 minutes after, 2.5 minutes. Like, it really bothered me a lot. And I thought about why it bothered me. Well, it simply bothered me because I hate it. I fucking hate it. I hate people that fucking lie. I don't like lying. I don't care if you're 8. I don't care if you're fucking 30. I don't care if you're 35. I don't hate people that lie, or I hate people that lie because people used to lie about what I was thinking. People used to come to me and be like, you're thinking this, and I would get beat for it. Or people would be like, you're doing this, and I would get in shit for it. Or in like my whole life, I got beat up. And then I was like, bullies and all that shit in my life. I just have no patience for it. I'm
afraid of that.
Lying.
I would hate
And
to
life.
have that happen.
Yeah, and life has no bearing. So like literally right from a young age, I've wanted to be like, yeah, lie to me. I'll put a gun to your head and end you. You know, and I was 4 years old when I held a loaded rifle to my parents for the first time. I remember Dad had the closet full of guns. No, I was older, actually. I would have been 6. See, it's hard to remember back all those years. But I remember the event. I don't always remember the age. So I would have been 6, and I grabbed this loaded rifle out of the closet and pointed at my parents. And I was like, bang, you're dead to my mom. Because she used to always like say stuff to my dad, and then Dad would beat me for something, and I never did nothing. All I'm doing is playing with my fucking toys all day. And like, I was alert and aware enough that you don't do certain things. If this is how my parents act like when I'm doing the right thing, imagine if I did the wrong thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, even worse.
Yeah, so I wasn't gonna fucking allow that to be the case. So I just kind of like went with it. And I got real good at being humble and like just being like, I get beat up a lot and stuff. And then so when I got older, people are like, I'm sitting there being quiet, and I might even be quiet for a long time, and then I'll say something and it piss somebody off, and they're like, what, you're so egotistical and you got that? And I'm like, ego, what is it? Like, I mean, I have parts of my ego which I developed later on in my life, which came from me listening to you guys and trying to follow the way of the world. You guys are like, oh, you got to get better, and I like talk to counselors, and I develop an ego afterwards. But I'm like, I don't have an ego. I'm like, what fucking ego are you talking about? And I learned that ego is both ways. You either can like have an ego from like literally being deprived, and you can have an ego from literally nobody ever depriving you.
I guess that's probably the best ways to build an ego and feel like you deserve something.
The person that either has to feel themselves.
But I think ego is more than just a feeling of deserving something.
No, but yeah, no, it's way more. So the person has to feel themselves. So nobody's giving me credit. I'm getting beat up. I've had all these shitty things happen at by such a young age. The only person between, and it's a long ways to 18 yet. You know what I mean? This is the only person between me and that is myself. So I need to like find a way to get comfortable in this environment because this isn't going away. You know what I mean? So like that right there, that fundamental thing, that challenges the people's way of thinking of we create our worlds, it's all law of attraction, is it? Because I didn't attract that.
It's not all.
I was 8. I didn't want that.
It all has the potential to be.
I want to live my life. I didn't want my life to be like that, to overcome my life in those ways. That's not what I wanted. I literally have met somebody that's told me that that's why that happened in my life, and that's why. They're like, oh, these happened because you wanted your life to be like that. You must have attracted it. You thought it. You're the shitty. They live by you're the shitty person by what you overcome. So by their explanation, I'm just as shitty as the people that did all that to me. So, but that's what the world teaches without God. I want no part in it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm fucking...
Yeah, that sounds totally twisted. Fuck that. You know, you should be able to have a totally removed thing.
I do music, right? Like, do you know what I honestly believe this? Because, like, you're covered for your sins no matter what. You just have to acknowledge it in whatever way, right? So like this is the way it works for me. For me, I've like spiritually come to a point where God's allowed me to have my dope and God allows me to frickin' make my music. Because those are the only two things that make me not want to kill anything and that keep me at bay and give me a point to want to live. Because I would want to just kill myself without it. Straight up. So in the greater purpose of those things, it doesn't matter if I make a song like Dope Kids or I tame my demon in that kind of a way. But what does matter is the message I say. If I get into my music and I start saying like, look what I did, look what I overcome, look what I did this. No, instead I try to the best I can, put the message to pull people away from that.
That's smart. Because you're kind of getting into the same marketplace or like to the same listeners as people who might listen to more inciting that tries to like get them to sell drugs or buy a gun or something like that.
People like rap
but
music.
You're taking those things and then saying that you do this leads to this. It's not all I think it is, you know, like adding
also
more details.
Did it because like what else do you do? Like I was violent. Like what do you do when there's no spot for that in society, and there's no spot? Well, there is. It's called gangs and then organizations, right? So where do you go? You either join the police and get a gun, or you fucking go somewhere else and get a gun. If that's what you grow up by the time you're like fucking, yeah, by the time I was like 14 or 15, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted a gun. And why did I want one? I wanted people to stop fucking with me. I felt that hardly done by that age that I was like, I literally could hold a gun to anybody and be like, fuck right off.
That's pretty. You must have been like felt so alienated from everything else. So separate.
Oh yeah, dude, like even today, like it's getting better now, but even today, like I can just end friendships no problem. I can do whatever, and not because I'm strong. It's because like I'm just like I've spent all my time by myself. I'm like I don't trust easily. I'm just like very like withdrawn, you know? And like I like get distant, and when I'm distant for long enough I start to get pretty nuts because like I definitely get to points where I'm like, well, what is the point of living? I'm already dying. I don't really give a fuck. done a lot of drugs. People don't listen to me anyways, they understand. I have my music, and even now that I made my music, it's just like the ones that I care and want to listen still don't listen to it. So I'm like, what's the fucking point? You know what I mean? That drives me a little nuts some days. But what is the point is I get satisfaction in those things. Those are the times I allow the pleasure to be, because then the pleasure doesn't exceed my need to feel myself. It's only enough for me to stop feeling like I need to not live for something, you know?
That's all it needs to do. It needs to make that a difference, you know? I look at a lot of things about what difference it makes. And even something like stapler keeps my pages together. Makes a little bit of a difference. Sometimes they take the staples out, though. It was a waste. It's great to establish habits of mindfulness, though.
Life's a lot like a dissolvable stitch.
But it also makes this difference.
Every time you fucking...
This is the only way I can make this difference.
Every time you hit something that cracks open something into your mind, it's like a dissolvable stitch. You got the physical injury, you got the alertness, so you got the mental injury, and you sew it up and it just dissolves, and there's the magic in life. It's the glue that holds it all together. You know what I mean? So it's the same way. It's like your life, your parents just go along putting staples into your paper. So instead of my parents putting the staples in my paper, life was putting the staples in my paper. Because my parents were like, go play. We're busy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going to play? Then you can help.
Yeah.
You know? So then, like, those things just, like, sort of happened all on their own. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about. Like really, like, honestly, if I didn't believe in God, there's no way I'd be here today. Now, that's a testament. That's a story. That's truth right there. Like, and it doesn't need a description. Like, if I didn't have the original beliefs in God, and then, like, gone through this big journey, and it doesn't matter what I believe now or and I don't, like, I do believe it now. Like, I would have not been here right now. There's no way. I would have killed myself the one of many times I was going to. But because there was that governing law that said that that's a sin, or you might go to hell, or are you sure you're ready to end your life yet? Because there was always that thing there that said those things, and I had the religious upbringing I did. I was aware of those feelings, and so being I was consciously living in those feelings at such a young age, I was like, okay, God's like, don't kill yourself. That's not a good choice. You know? And that really challenges psychological people, because it's not considered schizophrenic, because it's actually schizophrenic considers to cause harm to yourself. So when you like say like, oh, that's not a good choice or something like that, they're like, oh yeah, that's just regular choice. And then they try to like discredit this idea that that entity has like its own consciousness. No, there's many times in my life something was like, no, don't. I know it sucks, but don't. You know, like.
Yeah. I think that proves that God is love, you know? And that in that moment where it's like, do I destroy myself because I hate myself so much? Then God is there. It's like, you shouldn't do that. You don't do that because there's love.
That song is Nostalgic Day. Right there. What you just said, that's Nostalgic Day. Yeah. That is why I made that song.
I'm going to have to listen to these again and again. I've listened to them at least 4 or 5 times, but on repeat maybe. Maybe it's time to put it up to the repeat level.
To the repeat level, yeah. Like listen through the album a few times, like 2 times over.
Maybe that's what we should wrap this up with. We should wrap this up with the repeat. We're moving it up to the repeat level 3 hours in.
Yeah, like I can't believe like how long this podcast has gone. It's been full of some juicy stuff though.
Yeah, this one was better. It's getting better. I think
We're getting good at this.
more consistently better podcasts. Sometimes I'm worried. I'm like, oh, I didn't like look up the news. I'm like, what am I gonna talk about? But usually there's enough going on
Yeah,
in your
when
mind.
when this Voodoo Monkeys on the podcast, you don't have to worry about that. There's
Yeah.
always something to talk about. I always come up with something. I'm
Yeah.
like I got stories for days, and it's not because I just talk a lot or need to be the center of attention. See, a lot of people think that too. They think I make this shit up because they're like, how could possibly somebody your age gone through all that stuff already? Like you add in the military stuff, like the cadets when I was younger, then they join in the military, the being sent off to another school in Regina when I was 16, the coming back here, the fucking selling drugs in between, the living two lives, the living the Christian life at school and then coming home and like drinking, selling drugs and fucking bitches, and then like what a fucking interesting life, man.
Yeah.
Like, and no parents really, like a parent's just like, oh, come to church. Don't worship your devil pipe. Be good. But you know what's funny? Because my parents didn't teach me anything, really, and I don't see that part as a sad thing. They taught me the only part that really mattered. They were like, honor your parents, listen to the Ten Commandments, don't kill nobody. Those things are the things that why I didn't do that thing. I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to kill somebody because I'm like, well, if I kill you, then I got to deal with God. So I'm like, at the end of my life, I don't really want to do that. So I guess you should thank your lucky stars that you're fucking alive right now. But then in my head, I'm just
You already
like,
have a
please,
deal with
God,
God. It's life.
please, God, just let me like fucking unload on them. Like, I can't wait. You wait. I don't get to like I'm hoping that I get to just be like the angel avenger just to get to like go through life chopping people's heads off. That's what I really hope.
Fucking Genghis Khan with wings.
Genghis Khan with the wings. Have you ever saw LeBron James with a sword?
No. No.
Well, it's gonna be like fucking LeBron James, Wesley Snipes, and Scottie Pippen all had sex with fucking Andre the Giant. Frickin'. I'm gonna fly through with my fucking sword and wings, chopping off the head of every fucking man that pissed me off ever since the beginning of time.
This is an interracial Frankenstein that it just needs to happen. I'm gonna start writing the
I don't want to
script.
hear no shit
We're
I left
looking
out
for
any
script writers.
races because like I'm pretty sure I covered them all just in that like description. That's a fucking yin and yang with a fucking flame and sword.
With a fucking
On
Big
a
Mac
piece.
into it. It's a yin yang and a Big Mac in the middle. What the fuck? It's a weird combination.
Yeah, that fucking Big Mac in the middle. That's fucking
special sauce.
That's the devil's parada right there.
That's the devil's product, the Big Mac.
And on both sides of the buns, you got the seeded bun and you got the unseeded bun. You got the dark side and then you got the fucking starry side.
Yeah. The seedy stars and then the fucking brown ass thing with like the little hole that's kind of white. It's kind of like Jupiter. Wait, Jupiter? Yeah, with the big red dot.
Yeah. Remember back at the feces episode where God was just like shitting out humanity? He didn't shit me out. I like drove myself out of the digestive system. And I come flying out that butthole, swords ablazing, fucking ready for action.
Fucking take all the rest of it.
I was floating through some
see
space
that.
cosmic field.
It's like a waterfall of like shit, just normal, and then all of a sudden you explode out of there. It's like
that was the Big Bang.
That was the Big Bang. It was actually a bad case of diarrhea in the really early days.
Well, it was actually like so fucking me and Satan went at it in God's stomach, and so like I was just like, I'll get him, God. And I like went after him with his fucking sword. And like I come flying out of the butthole. And that was the creation of humanity. Well, first Satan came out the butthole. That created the like possibility. And then when I came out the butthole, then humanity was just like created. God said, "What the fuck are you two idiots doing?" And so I looked at him and I said, "Well, you weren't doing anything about it, so I just fucking figured I'd take matters into my own hands." And so he said that was fine. And he said like it was all perfect, and he gave him a garden and everything. Then they fucked it up.
With a shrubbery. A little path. Oh, yes.
He's like, okay, well, it turns out that that's a good creation. It was just like music. It's like, okay, it was an accident, but it turned out good. That's how it fucking works. And then, like, no, it didn't turn out so fucking good. And that little fucking Satan and his fucking little devil apples, he started, like, walking around, grabbing his balls on all the fucking good plants. He was like, fucking, oh, yeah, some poisonous ivory. Here's a little bit of fucking of that like knowledge stuff. And humanity just adapted it. And that's how we got life pretty much. It was like an epic digestive system battle that turned into the fucking Big Bang and then resulted in Satan rubbing his balls on poisonous ivy.
And that's the Voodoo Monkeys.
No, we haven't even got to that. That was day one. That was the first day of creation.
We got like at least like a few more.
Second day of creation. God creates the Voodoo Monkeys.
Yeah. Society springs up, falls down, springs up, falls down.
But that was my second life.
Springs up.
I was reincarnated from the guy with the sword in his digestive system into the. Well, first I was supposed to come out of the butthole of God, swords ablazing, and bring Armageddon. So I'm still kind of confused to what my mission is here.
Andre the Giant, crossover, yeah, Frankenstein, Big Mac, Yang Yang.
That sounds like Chevrolet had sex with a dump truck.
Just one of the cars that looks like a truck, El Camino. Sized dump truck, or a dump truck sized El Camino.
Murder.
I guess they already murdered
by dump trucks.
They're for kids though. Murder by dump truck. By what? Like running somebody over, or just like?
I don't know, but like I just imagine like.
You like load the dump truck up with something.
A CD cover.
Of CDs like one of Justin
big
Bieber.
yellow gravel
dump a bunch
trucks,
of them on somebody.
You know what I mean? Like one of those big cat trucks.